All right. Okay. So what we're going to do today, because it's going to be a very, very long sessions, I also don't think that I can go on for that long. So I actually have some pre-recorded for the second sessions, but this one, having to say this, we will finish these sessions and it may take up to about 4 plus or 5 even, we don't know, you see, depending on how much discussion we have, or we could finish early also. I'm not so sure, because this is quite a big class as compared to last time I carry out these particular sessions, you see. So I'm sure there's some people who has a lot of questions they want to ask, especially dealing with contract. And so we may have some longer discussion later lah. But we should finish before 4:30 or 5, and then I will post up my pre-recorded for the second part, which is on money matters, payment, and things that deals with dollars and cents. I will put up a pre-recorded lecture. There should be about 8 pre-recorded, which per recording is about 10 minutes. So there's about 18 minutes. And these 18 minutes, I do not want you all to go into it first immediately. I will post it up on Monday so that you all can digest the first session first. And then after that, Monday, I will post out the second session's pre-recording. And then you guys take your whole week to go through it. And next week, we'll come back again for another session. So if there's any issues, any problem, we can also sort it out during that time. Are you guys okay with this sort of arrangement?
Yeah, Doctor.
Yeah. Or you guys want me to go finish up until 7 o'clock? I'm okay with that also. I mean, it can be very tiring. And also for you all, I think to squeeze it into a day can be also quite tough, isn't it? I mean, like, you can sit here, but then the absorption level is not there, all right? Especially when we're doing online. So you're okay with this arrangement? We'll finish this as a session LU8, and then the L9 material, I'll post it up on Monday for you all to listen to, because mine is always 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. So you don't have to one shot sit there for 2 hours or 2.5 hours or 1.5 to 2 hours. You see, you can listen to one component, and then while you're driving, and then you move on to the next component while you're going home from work, and then when you listen, you're thinking like, okay, I don't understand, it's within that 10 minutes, you can go back and look at that 10 minutes, you see. So that is how I prefer to do it lah. Okay. So it's 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, yeah. All right. Today, we have basically covered, Dr. Ambrose is pretty much in charge of legislations, so which is the acts and all that, because he works for the auditors department. So I think I prefer him doing the acts because he will be practicing it more recently. He's always practicing. So I think that will be more helpful for everybody, you see, for you to see from the perspective of a practitioner. Otherwise, in terms of legislation, if we're just going to give you classes on what is in the acts, what is in the ordinances, and what is in the legislation, what is in contract acts and all that, can get very dull. It's very boring in that sense, because we're just going through the elements within those acts and the elements within the ordinances. So I think that is why we sort of agreed that we allocate for him to do all the acts. So you have got your contract act, you've got your environmental act, and then you've got your occupational health and safety act, and then we also list down ordinances for building ordinances and also land codes, you see. So these are all the related, very much related to engineering sort of law, okay. And some people may say that, like we've got auditor coming to tell us that it's like maybe there are people who are from mechanical, from other parts of engineering, you don't find every single part of this relevant. But I beg to differ, because the act is applicable to everybody. So when you're practicing in the industry as whichever form of engineers, you need to know the act. It's just that during the practice itself, you know, if you're more of an environmental engineer, of course, you're more concerned with environmental acts and you're not so concerned with building and land, you see. And for construction people, you are definitely going to be relatable to everything here. And for mechanical, like pure M&E people, definitely you need to know your building ordinances as well. Otherwise, how are you going to know where you're going to put your wiring and all that, you see? And there's also law in terms of where you're going to put all your mechanical parts like plumbing and all that, you see? So that is related to the building acts, not necessarily not relevant at all, you see? And work as mechanical engineers, you also will be dealing with a lot of contract, you know, so that one is quite common. Contract will be very common among all the engineers. So we also cannot cover for everybody, put it this way, you see. This is what is in the syllabus. We present it to the best of the normal engineering stream. If you come from like biotech or you come from like, you know, aerospace, then or aeronautical, you know, these are the things that maybe not everything will be relevant to you, unfortunately. But you know, you've choose to come to MSc EM. This is what we are presenting. So I'm sure even if you don't think that certain topics are relevant to you, there's no harm in terms of learning as well, because this is also part of knowledge, I would say. Yeah, so what I'm trying to say here is it may not, especially if you're from a very specific, very unusual form of engineering, then you will probably find that not every topic is relevant. But if you are just from the general, the traditional, civil, mechanical, electrical, chemical, you know, then electronics, maybe even, then most of the topics are going to be relevant. Okay, so from the Acts now, you already understand basically these are the law of Malaysia that is applicable to your industry or to your work, you see. And then when you're practicing, you should take note of it, even though you may not get a direct knowledge, because we're not giving a class on environmental acts for chemical engineering or environmental acts for specifically electronics, you know, or M&E. See, so we're not doing that. We can't do that. You know, if we do that, then what about the civil people? If we do that for civil, what about the rest? You see, so we cannot do that. So what you need to know is you know that there's basic knowledge here that is applicable. You know what the app is all about. Then you need to go back to your practice, you see, and apply and see whether I mean, it will definitely be applicable to your practice. It's just that you know where to get your knowledge if you need to practice it, you know. So that would be what we aim to achieve, you know, here. So for law, there is so much that we want to cover with you already. I think that is more than enough for everybody. And we also have people who are from China and you know, elsewhere as well. So I mean, I wouldn't say this is 100% applicable to you, but at least you know that our country has this sort of acts, and I'm pretty sure in your country you also have similar acts or similar law. And then from what you learn here, it may be easier for you to understand what is written there in your country's law, you see. So it's just like a foundation that we build up for you all. So for my part here, I'm going to be focusing purely on contract. And this is the part that we will be talking about starting from the project is being awarded, you know. Before the project is awarded, we're looking into procurement. So when we will also be explaining some topics towards the end on procurement. Then, like for example, what is tendering, you know, what type of tendering available, and then how is that compared to the contract, you know, how you're going to match it with contract, what is lump sum contract, what is BQ contract, the different type of contracts that is available in the engineering industry. And that is a part that we'll be covering on procurement, okay? And therefore, then once procurement is done, we sign a contract. So all your contract acts will be applicable. To make a valid contract, for everybody to sign a contract, there must be different parties within the contract who have certain rights, certain responsibilities, certain obligations to fulfill, and this is how you want to behave, within the contract. So, so when we learn about that, okay, you go into a contract, it has to be a valid contract. You cannot say that I have a contract just because you and I sign a piece of paper. Does that mean that we are in a contract? You see, so preferably, according to the Contract Act of Malaysia, there must be certain elements within the contract that constitute the contract, meaning that it has to be, there must be offer, there must be acceptance, there must be intention to create a legal relation, there must be consideration. The person who signed cannot be a minor. You need to understand what is written there in the contract and all that. So this full thing here in the law only tells you that what makes a valid contract. So when you have a valid contract and the parties sign a contract, it means the project is being awarded to the service provider, to the contractor, to the designer, or to the design and build people, or to the mechanical contractor, to the builders. We have started our legal relationship. So when we started this legal relationship, when you're working in a project environment, okay, all engineers work in a project environment. So when we work in a project environment, we need to know how to administer the contract, meaning that we need to manage the contract. And many engineers don't understand that if they don't know what is in the contract, you cannot fully do your duty and your responsibilities fully or properly. Say, I think a lot of, in the construction industry, for example, people like to lump procurement and contract to QSs. And I think that contract is the job of QSs. Contract administration is the job of QSs. Okay, and I think that very specifically will apply to government agency like JKR, for example. You don't let your engineers touch contract even. Other maybe private sectors, not so much, you see, but they draw a very specific line to the duties and responsibilities of the QS in certain department or certain engineers, in certain engineering organization. And that makes the engineers very unfamiliar, with contract and how to administer the contract. You imagine that actually engineers are the people who are going to be on the site day in, day out, you see, and you will be witnessing, you'll be carrying out certain duties and certain responsibilities that is actually stated in the contract. Okay, for example, okay, when we say that there is standing instructions, meaning that you need to go to the site and witness the pouring of the concrete or witness the piling and do the record. It sounds like a very technical thing that engineers do, okay? And where does contract comes in? Because contract says that this is standing supervision. If, let's say, you don't go and witness all the work that is being done, what's going to happen if the contractor not fulfill certain aspects of the quality? And say if you're not there, you see, and then you tell the contractor, I want you to open up or I want you to redo, you see. So this will be starting to be going into the contract, you see. And how many QS are actually on site witnessing all these things? No, they only receive at the end of everything the paperwork, and the paperwork will be made into certain letters or warnings or refer to the contract and do the necessary back end job, you see, the back end part of administering it. But in the front end, whereby you need to gather all these evidences, you need to have all these documents, you need to do all this work, it's actually the engineers. See? So actually, contract is not only QSs. I'm sure there's a fair bit of QSs here. So when you come to a topic like this, it's very familiar to you. So you have no issues. You see, But engineers may say that I don't need to know. Why do I need to know? But day in, day out, you are the one dealing with the other parties of the contract. See, you guys are only on the paperwork end. See, on the administration, on the proper letter writing, issuance of warning, issuance of VO and all that. But in the first place, issuance of VO, the instructions and all that would come from the engineers first, you see. And without this information, you're feeding back to the QS. The QS will have a hard time trying to find out what actually happened on site first before they can write the right thing, you see, in the letter and do the right administration and put in the right steps for in the compound, in the scope of the contract. So we cannot really say that it's it's like me telling you that because QS deal with money, that means engineers don't need to pay about cost management. Is that right? Does it make sense to you all? Doesn't, right? Your job, time, cost, quality, each and every component is equally important. Okay? If you really want to draw a line, it's applicable to everybody. It's just that the line is drawn whereby some places, some organization, you leave the actual writing, you need the actual administering of the contract to the QS. But the initial part of information gathering, the initial part of the administration, which means the action bit, is the engineers, you see. It's only the paperwork bit that comes to the QSs. If you guys beg to differ, I'm very happy to hear your opinion, because some of your organizations are very clear cut. You don't let the engineers even touch the contract. They don't know what is going on in the contract. All they know is, they must do like this time, the period, the cost, the budget. That's it, and then this is the rubric to check the quality. That's it. They only do that, you see. I mean, they only think about that, you see. So they don't think about the consequences of all this in relation to the back end, the second bit of the picture, which is the contract. But some organization, like I said, private organization, not everybody can have like QSs, like not every organization will employ QSs. So then engineers need to know everything, is it, from A to Z. Like from the actual administrations all the way to the actual actions administrations to the actual paperwork administration, to the whole stretch, you see. So very simple example, QS will administer contract in terms of extension of time. But what about the information that the engineers need to record? They need to be aware there's something called extension of time. They need to give warning to the contractors that you need to apply for your extension of time. Otherwise, it will not be applicable anymore at the end of a certain period, whereby it's not valid anymore because it's written in a contract. If you don't know as an engineers about this, I mean, how are you going to do the work in the first place for the QSs later to administer the right paperwork for it, you see? So again, it's like a simultaneous thing. It's actually asynchronous. It's not you do your thing, I do my thing kind of thing, you see. So I don't believe in that. This is the same one industry. Okay. So like traditional M&E, you are also pretty much involved in construction. Okay, chemical, you probably will deal with construction. You also probably will also deal with supplies, and procurement and many other elements as well within the contract. That deals with contract, especially purchasing of certain equipments or purchasing of certain materials, chemicals, and all this also will involve a different type of contract, but it will be more like a supply contract, not so much of a construction contract or a builder contract or a service contract. So whether you're providing a hardcore service or material or providing a hardcore machines or whatever, or a combination of all these, you are actually going to be in the contract with the other party. So we need to understand contract. I cannot emphasize on that importance enough. So what we're going to do with the courses is to understand elements that you need to manage in the contract, such as time. And then from there, we talk about the elements, the different components of time, different components that leads to delays, and then how to administer extension of time. So these are all time related things. And then we also have a topic on money, cost relating that goes from, you know, submission of payment claim to what is a payment claim, what is the payment certificate, and then what is the interim payment, and then payment certificates and all that, what is penultimate, and there's a lot of contractual related things within that. See, so then we also deal with different type of naming, you know, like for example, prime cost, for example, provisional sum, for example, contingency sum, for example, retention sum, for example, performance bond. You know, so these are all part and parcel of money matters, you see. So we will go from time to money, cost, you know, then we will deal with whatever contract should cover in whatever field that you are in. The contract should cover the quality aspects of things, such as say the material testing, submission of reports, submission of certificates from the suppliers, and also machineries. And if you have non-compliance during the progress of work within the contract period, what are the actions that is normally taken in terms of the contract? Okay, so we will go into that as well. So we have 1 week, one LU on time, 1 LU on cost, 1 LU on quality, and then another LU on another 1 or 2 LUs. If we cannot finish in 1 LU, then we will have another LU, which is normally going to be by pre-recorded. So we will cover, you know, other miscellaneous items like nominated subcontractor, suppliers. We'll cover things like insurances, what else? Elements which is not directly we can slot it into time, cost, quality. You see, so that will cover like 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks. Actually, more or less the content is about 5 LU content. Okay, then we will have covering with you the law of thought, which is also important to engineers. I will normally do that for if we using a pre-recorded, because that one, if I talk like this and do recording, it can be very, very tough in that sense to understand. So we normally, I do pre-recorded so that you listen to one part and fully understand the part first, you know, and you thinking like, now I already know that, I move on to the next part, my next 10 minutes sort of things. These are one by one. So I have a lot of thought in my files of pre-recorded that I will give it to you. And that time, I think, will probably be quite close to, I don't know, probably quite close to Raya already. Then the last week or so, we'll be dealing with procurement and what else? I don't remember if we have. Yeah, we do. I'm not sure we are. Procurement. I'm certainly blurred. You know, I'm doing too many sometimes. You know, I'm doing project management for my undergraduate studies. I'm doing project management for my civil engineering project management again tomorrow. And I'm doing with you guys, so sometimes I get very confused and we're gonna be talking through. Yeah, right. So if not, then we definitely have things on conflict and also dispute. So all contract related stuff. This contract is that we are looking at more, not so much of procurement. We covered procurement already in project management, if I'm not wrong. Okay, let me go back and have a look. But never mind. These 4, 1, 2, LU, 8, 9, 10, 11, more or less these 4 LUs will be concentrating on contract. Okay, right? And we will give you a project, and there's 20 of you. So I would suggest, or is it 21 of you? So I would suggest per group of three, okay, three or less if you want. You all put yourself in a group. I'm not going to stop who is going to be whose friend, it's okay. Unless you have problem finding a group, then you let me know. Otherwise, it's freestyle. You suka dengan siapa, you like who, you go with who lah. Yeah, no forcing. Then I will have, no, this is not group assignment anymore. You see, I'm confused again. Sorry, this is individual assignment. Individual assignment. So individual assignment, I will set up 4 different scenarios within the contract. So I will need you to write a very small essay on each part. So let's say after today's assignment, after today's class, you will get an assignment on time. Okay, so I would say it's going to be related to your own project, to your own industry. I cannot give a standard question. If I give a standard question, it's going to kill some people, you see, because if you're not from that industry, it's not going to work. So what I'm going to do is, let's say in your project, when there is a delay, for example, what does your contract say, and how should you deal with it, and how in real life, how do you deal with it, and in contract, how do you deal with it? Is there a difference? I want you to analyze that, you see, like I want you to go back and look at your contract. For example, JKR people, you have got your JKR short form of contract. So they will talk about delays, extension of time, and all that. So if there's a delay happen, and then what should be the roles and responsibilities of everybody involved? So you need to refer back to that contract and then write out what the contract says, not to say copy the sentences in, that you need to read it, know these are the clauses applicable, and then you're going to put down your your understanding of that particular contract. Then you write out what should be done. Then what did you guys do in that particular situation? How did you assess, for example? And then do you give the contractor? How closely do you guys follow the contract? So you see, so this is what I would do. It's going to be the same topic, same way for every topic that we're going to go through. Like, for example, money and quality. And the 4th one, I haven't decided yet whether we want to do something different, so let me think about it. But 1, 2, 3, you'll be involving this sort of elements, okay, within the contract. So let's say cost is talking about, say, if you want to claim for payment, when there's a payment, there's an entitlement of payment, what is everybody's roles and responsibilities within the contract? Okay, so you can deal with different type of contract. Okay, so for mechanical people, you may have your own supply and delivery, or you may have your own contract that you are using. Some organizations, they have their own contract, for example, SEB. So if some of you are from SEB, you have to go back to your own company's contract, and it may not be PWD 203. See, so and some people may use the CIDB contract. Some people may use the PAM contract, especially those QSs who are in structure, for example, or buildings, for example. You'll be using that. Okay. So people from overseas, I'm not so sure, what you will be doing. If you have your own country's code and all that for specific contractual documents, yeah, go ahead and use it. Okay. If you don't have, then you may want to borrow contract from one of your classmates, okay, and apply that to the scenario in your country, and then to see how different it is also possible. So it's that the angle that you're going to go in is going to be different from the locals here who are actually in the project. You probably have a situation, have a scenario already on hand, you see, so you can use that quite conveniently. Okay, yeah, so that's what I think we'll we should be going in that direction for the next 7 weeks. We're going to finish in week 12. So yeah, another 7 LUs to go. Any questions so far? It's Ibrahim. You put up your hands.
No, it's not now. It's previously.
That's correct. Are you in Malaysia at the moment, or are you still in your own country?
I am with Malaysia.
Are you in Malaysia? Huh? So are you working here or now, or just studying this full time?
No, just studying full time. Not
Okay.
working.
So so for these sort of questions, yeah, if you have any issues, you can actually email me lah, huh? And yeah, we can go through that. I mean, like, do you have any examples or anything like that you can use for your project? Yeah, you have to let me know lah, huh? Ziyuan, are you would you have any issues like with this sort of assignments? I think the rest, I'm not so worried. I think I'm pretty much sure that if people like Nick Man, you probably have, like, so many scenarios that you can use, So you can even share some of the scenarios with some of your friends. I think it's fine. And this is going to be individual assignments, so you cannot use I mean, I would allow you to use the same project if you want, but let's say if you really don't have any project, you're actually not working, you're fresh graduate, you have no connection with the industry at all or whatsoever, you may need to talk to some of your classmates to borrow their project or borrow their scenario, but then you have to answer it within your own ways, you see, within your own contract documents. So it cannot be just copy directly. Both of you are working on it. This is not a group assignment, okay? I'm sure people like Jessica, you're quite okay. Eka, Brenda, Talia. No issues, right, with anyone else? My main worry is the two fellows who are not from here, huh? Afika, are you okay, Afika? Okay. So you guys think about it. I mean, I haven't give the assignments yet, so nothing to really go hoo-ha about first. Let me finish the class. Then when we post the assignments and next week we come back, you can. I would like to spend some time at the end of every class to look at your assignments. You see, I don't want people to just think they know what they're doing and then just go and do it and then hand it in to me at the end of the semester and everything is wrong. It's a bigger headache for me, actually. So I would like it if you, let's say, some of you actually show me some of your work, like online through this space here. You can show it to me or you can email me if you want. But if you can share it online, then we can hear. Then I can take a look, and then say, okay, I think you're on the right track, or you have to rearrange certain things, or actually you're on completely wrong direction. We can detect the problem earlier because this is going to be 4 small assignments combined into one. So each and every one, you have to get the first one right. Then the second, third, and fourth will be a lot easier. Okay, right. So in terms of contract, we know that in every one of us deal with projects. Okay, we deal with engineering project. I myself is a civil engineer. Okay, so I am in the construction industry. So you will see that I would also tend to be very when I talk, it's unavoidable that I'll be more construction or civil based, unfortunately for some of you. But no matter what, if you have, in your industry, please share with me. I would be very happy to also learn about your industry and also maybe answer you if you have a very specific questions related to your industry, if I know it, that I will share my opinion as well, in terms of the contract, how we should deal with it, for example. Okay. Basically, for most engineers, we work in a project environment. So when we have our job, our project, sometimes we call it project job, okay, or a project, or a specific task that we do for that certain period of time. Normally, it will be different clients, okay, and it may be different designers and different builders as well. So the people within the contract can change. So every project is actually a contract. So before we start a project, we sign, we get into the relationship with the different parties, or we call it stakeholders for the project. The stakeholder of a project doesn't run away from these few people, the designers, client or the employer, and the builder or contractor or service provider. Okay. And these are the three parties that is usually they are within the contract. Okay. So when we talk about contract, we cannot run away from the word client, builders or service provider or the contractor. We cannot run away from the supervisors of the job, which is usually the designer. Okay, so these three parties, or sometimes we call them the consultants. Okay, in Malaysia, we like to call them consultants. Okay, but actually they are just basically, to me, they are the designer of the job. And depending on the type of procurement method, designer are their role, is different. Where clients are always the owner. The service provider or the contractors or the builders, they are always the one that will actually deliver the product. Okay. The designer is the in-between person, but sometimes they can be engaged under the client. Sometimes they can be engaged by the contractor. So that relationship itself can differ from one another. Okay. From different contract to different contract. So what do we do, when we embark onto a contract? We normally do not really go out and write a contract unless it's a very, very special type of job or very special type of project. Otherwise, we don't write a contract specifically from project to project or from job to job. Okay. And because of the nature of the contract, you need to deal with different clients, okay? And the environment of the project can be different. The requirement of the project can be different, or the requirement for the product can be very different as well. So we normally would have to have a separate contract, one by one, for every job that we embark onto. But we don't draft every single word and every single clauses in the contract. Okay, there are something called general condition. Okay, some company may say that I don't have general conditions. We more or less draft our own contract. It's normally because this our contract are maybe a supply contract, and the level of responsibilities and the level of complexities within the contract are not a lot. But do you realize that you also don't draft every single thing? What you normally do is you will take another standard contract that you have within your company dealing with specific that type of procurement. You will take it and refer to it. You'll probably take the whole thing and then you will do editing to it. So this is what we will do. And you edit the product itself, the specifications itself, the product requirement itself, the deadline, the pricing, the delivery time, and etc. etc. So you will still do editing. In that way, you also don't draft a contract by itself, you see. And it will be expensive, if let's say every single project we have a specific contract that we need to draft and send to the lawyers to take a look, and then sign and chop and stamp and negotiate and all that. It will be a very long process. It will be a very tedious process. Even if you buy house, sales and purchase agreement from a developer, there will always be a very standard documents that you only change the lot, you change the lot number, the house number, or you change the delivery time, or you change the penalty, essential things that you will change, but you don't really change the general things. Even if you have a rental agreement, usually within the same company, you probably have the same styles, you see. So we call it, this type of condition, we call it general conditions. It's like a one size fit all t-shirt kind of thing, or one size fit all dress or trousers or shirt that we apply. And that is to save up costs. So for most engineering industry, we don't have a lawyer with us. Some very, very huge company, they have a legal department. Like as big as Unimas, you have a legal department. But normally, most organizations, you will normally outsource your legal consultation to an external law firm. Okay. So we don't do that. So basically within the organization itself, the people who are going to be dealing with this, drafting all this, will be the engineers and the QSs normally. Okay, if you have QSs will probably go through it and write it, and then they will normally let the engineers check. So because there's a lot of technicality in it that the engineers needs to check. Otherwise, if the QS draft everything and assume that this is the right thing to go, then you may have a lot of issues later on as well. Okay, so yeah, so that would be the normal practice. So that's why engineers, we need to know contract, we need to know law, because you engineers and QSs, you need to know all this, because you don't have a lawyer. You don't have a lawyer. It's awfully expensive also to engage them, and they don't know the technical bit of things, you see. So if we're going to write about this, if this is an M&E contract, does the law firm knows M&E? If you put in there, your ventilation systems or whatever that you need, or testing that you need, if you fail and you must go through what, if you go to that extent, does the lawyer understand what you're trying to say? Okay, like it's just like, for example, we talk about piling, we talk about shear force, we talk about bending moments. The lawyers don't understand. So I always say this, and it is certainly true within the engineering industry, that all contract and law that is dealing with project are to be administered by the engineers themselves. Okay, when I talk about engineers themselves, I'm not meaning to say that this doesn't include the QS. Okay, it's together. Yeah. Because this is the engineering management topic, so I assume engineers, I use the word standardized as a group engineers. Okay. So don't get too perasan, sensitive. That Dr. Ting don't like QS. Not true. Yeah. Definitely it's together. Okay. So it's sometimes drafted by the QS. If you have a QS in the firm, then the engineers will take a look, they will go through it. If there's any amendments that needs to be made, then we will always go refer back. But QSs are not lawyers as well. They're trained professionally to be lawyers. So what we normally do is we will have a standard copy. Like for example, JKR's form of contract is a standard copy. Inside the standard copy, it deals with all the standard things that can happen in a project. Okay, and like let's say from JKR KL, West Malaysia or Sabah, you definitely use a PWD 203. So, and JBAP probably use a Sarawak form. We call it standard form of contract. So it's like a standard t-shirt that everybody can apply. It's like a jacket that you can put on. Inside there's a lot of standard clauses that you already have available, dealing with standard things. Okay. But they are not so standard as well, because if you talk about standard things, these things really will happen in every contract. Single item in the standard form of contract or in the general conditions of contract, it is actually applicable to 99.9 situations or 99.9 projects. That is available, whether you are in the mechanical, whether you're in the civil, whether you're in the electrical, it will be standard applicable. So all engineers need to deal with the standard items, you see, like for example, time, for example, schedule, for example, delays, for example, extension of time, for example, liquidated damage, for example, payment claim, for example, testing report, for example, insurances, for example, compensation, for example, loss. These are the things that are very standard. Every project, unless nothing happens, otherwise your project will definitely need to deal with all this standard stuff. So this standard stuff they'll be putting, we will usually have a form, that's why it's called standard form of contract. It's a form, A form is you already have a standard there. You only need to fill in the particulars. So in this case, you're not filling in the particulars. But if you do have any special conditions for the specific project, you can actually add on a special condition. Okay. And if you want to delete any part of the standard form of contract, you can also. But if you touch on the standard form of contract and adding special conditions, my advice is generally we will also send it to your external lawyers to actually take a look and see in terms of legality. Okay, you are writing the right thing. Okay, you see, in every dispute that we have, not only we are looking at the legality, we also will be looking at the technical and the management the actions in terms of technical and management within the contract itself as well. Okay, so the very big part is always the technical and management, that all the behavior and actions and responsibilities and rules and regulations that is pertaining to that technicality and also management that is related. Okay, that's why we need engineers. We don't get a lawyer to manage an engineering contract. Okay, so legality of it, meaning that are you really constructing the full sentence? The sentences, the word that you use, is it the correct? It's only a few specific structure that is legal language that maybe is needed to be there that we want the lawyer to take a look at. So we call it the legality. Even if you go to court, let's say you have a dispute, you go to court, if there's no problem with legality, that means it's all the factor dealing with technical. And then judges will be a very difficult person to understand all the technical language within an engineering contract. That's why we don't like to go to court for an engineering dispute, because it would take so long to explain to a lawyer and the judge what is happening, you see. So we may want to use an arbitrator or mediator to resolve our dispute if this is dealing a lot with technical and management within the engineering field. Legality is whereby the contract is things like, the contract are not formed properly. There is some, it didn't go for stamping, or it's actually an unfair contract, or there is elements of the contract that is actually not within the law of Malaysia. Something like that, then this is called legality. But because you have a standard form already, usually legality issues will be very, very small. Unless, like I said, you delete some of the clauses or you add in some of the clauses, then we will normally get a legal department to review this another time as a safekeeping, like a safety measure lah, in case we accidentally delete certain legality out of the contract. Okay, so this is dealing with how the contract is formed normally. So within the contract itself, you have your client, you have your contractors. Your clients are your owner, okay, the person who's going to own the job. They have a need, they have a desire for a certain product, and they have money to pay, they want to pay. It's just like they are the purchaser, how they are the people who put in the order. They want to have certain product, they want to have certain service. So therefore, they engage a service provider, they engage a contractor, they engage designers to deliver the product to them. Okay, and those are the owners. If you want to imagine it in an easier way, they are the people who has the money lah. the purse strings. But you have to be careful if you're talking about owner and end user. Owner are the one that pays for the project. The client are the one that pays for the project. But who actually own the project? It can be the end users, meaning that it can be the government, but then the people will be the one using it. It's just like the paymasters to build a universities will be the Ministry of Higher Education, MOHE. But the owner at the end of the project or the users of the project will be UNIMAS, you see. So we are the one that have students, they are, the UNIMAS management will be using the project, and it's no longer client, is no longer the MOHE once the money's been paid. I mean, it sounds a bit bad, after they pay the money, you ask them to go away. Not like that, but you need to understand that difference here. Okay, so it's just that sometimes the money comes from federal. Federal means that from the nation's pool of money, for the whole country. Then the administrator or the owner of the project, it will be the Sarawak government, for example. So the Sarawak government will be the end users. They will be the final owner who owns the project, but the money is being paid by, let's say, federal fund. Okay, so well, that is quite common, okay, for many projects. And even houses, the client, if I'm involved, but to build a development project, to build, like, say, the 60 houses or 80 houses, I'm a developer. In the contract itself, we are dealing with the paymaster normally, okay? You understand that? We are dealing with the paymasters, which is the client. So as a contractor, as a person who are actually providing my service for material and my technical know-how to build and my workmen and my machinery, I'm the provider, so I'm the builder. So I will be entering into the contract with the client, but the end user of the project will be the house owner. So you see, that's the difference. So you need to be very clear who is your client and how much your owner or another component of the project, say the end users, will have an impact in your project. You have to be very careful with that as well. Okay, but generally, that relationship is established between the clients, the paymasters, with the contractor. Yeah, Afika? Now you raise your
Bro,
hand.
that
Yeah.
tekan tadi, bro.
Tekan,
No, sorry.
It's okay. I think you have a question you want to ask. Right. Let me grab a drink. Let me. Okay. So get this relationship right first. Okay. And then where does the client where does the consultant or your professional bodies come into the picture, like the architect, your civil engineers, mechanical engineers, QSs and all that? These are the professional team for the project, and they normally will be dealing with the management, the design, the management, and the delivery to the supervision bit of things. So usually we will, in the contract itself, we will call them the consultants. Sometimes we will sometimes call them the designers. Sometimes we will also call them the superintending officer, or or sometimes it's very straightforward. Some contract you will use the word engineers, or some contract will use the word architects, for example. Okay, so again, for engineers who are saying that contract is QS punya kerja, their job, then why the contract says engineers? I have never seen a contract that says QS, All right, so you have to be very careful here with saying that contract has nothing to do with engineers. In every single standard form of contract that I see, whether it's a private sectors or government sectors, there's always that superintending officers, architects, or engineers. Because architects and engineers are always the leading consultant. They are the leading designers for the job. If this is a building job, architect will be the lead consultant. If it's civil or some structural work, then engineers will be the lead consultant. Okay, So the lead consultants are the one that has the responsibilities to manage the work, to manage the contract and administer the actions of the contract. And the QS are here to assist in terms of cost and contract. That is dealing with, much of it is dealing with the paperwork. Sorry, am I saying this correctly? I don't want to insult the QS, so QS, if you think that you are doing a lot more than what I'm saying, please tell me so that we all can, understand this a little bit better, okay? Dahlia, you're the QS here, right?
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, I remember you're the QS. Who else? Shasha is also the QS, right?
Yeah.
Thomas, you're a QS or you're an engineer?
Engineer, doctor.
Right. So Shasha and Dahlia, you don't really, like, in the beginning of the process of the job, right? You guys are very much receiving, the information from the site in order to deal with the documentation and paperwork. Am I right?
Yes, doctor.
Do you, you are not going to be frequently on site compared to the engineers, true or not?
True.
Yeah. So more or less, I think the roles are quite clear in that sense. I think in other countries, sometimes they call QSs like construction cost manager or something like that. I remember seeing somewhere, I don't remember which country. QSs are the work QSs, they are pretty much used in maybe the Commonwealth country, like British education-based kind of company. British education-based kind of country, some country like maybe China, I don't think you will use the word QS. Do you use QS? I don't think so. They'll probably use things like cost manager or something like that, or construction manager or something like that. So it's a bit different. The usage of words is a little bit different, yeah. All right. So remember, every contract, when you talk about consultant here, the word engineers, if you look at IEM contract, and if you look at CIDB contract, I think they would directly, CIDB contract use SO, superintending officers. But IEM contract, they will use engineers, and many other contract also, they will use the word engineers, okay? And architects, normally they will use it under PAM, the Tumohan Architect Malaysia's form of contract. They will use architect. When you see in the contract, when you read the contract, they will always talk about employer is to do this, assist by the SO, assist by the architect. The architect will need to certify something, and then the contractor will do whatever. You see, the parties within the contract, the names will be popping up like that, you see. So there will be that deals with what? When you know these three parties within the contract itself, the whole contract, what is it about? At the end of the day, if we talk about, blah, 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 until now, what does contract do? It's very simple. Contract basically deals with what you can do and what you cannot do. Okay? All right. So in every contract, we are dealing with people's role. Okay? What is your responsibilities? What is your entitlement? Okay, we start with what is your entitlement. Okay? What is your entitlement? Meaning, what is your rights? And in the first class, I was telling everybody, law of Malaysia, law around the world is to govern human behavior. Okay? In the transaction of a project, we need to deal with human behavior. Okay? We need to know everybody knows what is expected of them and how these people should behave in the event of certain occurrences or certain event. Okay? We will definitely need to know how to behave. I was telling my undergraduate class 3 days ago, I was telling them, I was asking them a question. Do you think that human being is good, or do you think human being is actually bad in the first place? Yeah. So 5 things. I'm sure you all are more mature, more mature students. So do you guys think that human beings, we are actually born bad, or are we actually born good people? It's a very difficult question, honestly. It may sound very simple, isn't it? Huh? But all I can say that is, wherever you say good or bad, or whether you are good, but due to your environment, due to your nature, or due to the environment, or due to your nurture. Nurture meaning that your education and your teaching in school, in your religion or whatever, you become a bad person. Some people believe that, nature versus nature. But overall, if you look at many experiments done within psychology or within whatever, we actually, human beings has that tendencies. We are not so civilized yet to have that tendencies to be completely born a good person. That's what I think. So that's why we have law, we have moral. These are the things that has to be there to govern human behavior. So every contract is almost like we believe we have to have that foundation, believe that human beings are bad in the first place. If you leave them as they are, they will not behave. Okay? And it is true. It is very true. You see, I will give you a very simple example that maybe I won't say, I don't want to relate to any of your profession here. Let's relate them to an accountant. Okay? If there is an accountant one day, the boss tell him, we need to go public listing. Can you do something with the account? Boleh tukar nombor kah, huh? Or there is an audit tax department coming. You boleh tukar, you change the receipt kah, you write a different account. You do another account. This is against the law, But your boss asks you to do that. Okay, so your boss asks you to do something that is not legal, something that is against moral, something that is not right. Okay? In ethics also. Ethics is the profession. Your accountant, board of accountant will tell you that this is wrong. It's against your professional ethics to make fake account. Okay, so you are being requested to do that. Most people's reaction, what will your reaction be? Can you tell me? Would any one of you here straight away pour the paper onto your boss face and tell him that you go to die lah, I don't want to do, I quit? How many of you will do that? And on the other hand, how many of you will actually listen to the boss and do it? That one, I don't want you to put up your hands, huh? Okay, but many of us, I would say 60 to 70% of people will struggle. Struggle simply means that you will go home, some of you will feel very scared. Today, I've been requested to do something like that. What am I going to do now? Some of you will probably not be able to sleep for a few nights. Is that the normal reaction for most people? Right? You feel fear. Good. Okay? And then, do I say yes or do I say no? So if I tell you that if human behavior is really, really, if human nature are born good, why didn't we just say that, no, I won't do it? Sorry, this is wrong. I won't do it. How many of you will walk out, no matter what your boss say? You will walk out and say, sorry, I don't deal with things like that. I would say there will be people, but that will be less than 10%. That means 20 of you, only 1 or 2 will probably dare to do that. 70% of you, about 14 or 15% of person here will say that I will struggle. I will really struggle. It will be very painful for me to say yes or no. Okay? And 10%, less than 10% will probably go ahead and say, I don't care, my boss asked me to do, I will do. Okay? So you can see that nature of human behavior. nature within the world, okay, and it's been done as early as 1960s even. Fear of authority, when there's power ahead of you, you are scared. You will bow. And many of you will bow, say that, okay, I will do it because I fear of my boss. Why you fear your boss? Because your boss will sack you. You will lose your job. Okay, so many of you scared of authority. He is my boss. He should be right. Whatever decision that he makes, he should be right. So you justify yourself. You will say that, I think, yeah, it's very important to the company to survive. If the company don't survive, maybe I'll lose my job at the end of the year. I'll lose my job if I say no, or I'll never get a promotion anymore from my boss. So you fear. So, and you said that, doctor, did you say that there are 1 or 2% who will just say, go to hell, suck up with you, bye, But in most research done, in almost all research done, this one or 2%, normally they have another fear, that is religion. That means they're scared to go to hell more than they're scared of their boss. Okay, so this again is another type of fear. So again, we have to mention that when we have the authority in front of us, when your religion teaching tell you that, if you do bad things, next time you die, you go and burn in the hell lah. So we're scared of that. We're scared of God. Okay? It means what? It just basically means that we need certain things to govern our behavior. We want to avoid all these things from happening. In every engineering contract, you imagine the client is your paymaster. You're not scared of him, man? And some of you who works as a client, in the client like JKR, like DID, or like ministry, many of you are working in that kind of environment. So you are in the client group. You have the authority. And you tell me that any one of you never felt that this authority that you have in your hand is a nice feeling. Huh? Can any one of you tell me that? That, wow, having that power in your hand, having contractor come to you and, talk nicely to you and tell you, like give you gift during Raya or whatever, like tell me that you don't like it. When you are the agent of authority, or because you represent the client, especially the designer or the officers within the client's department, you also will have the tendency to abuse your power. Am I right? It's like slowly, even first time you don't do it, second time you get, maybe the other party get a bit too much, then you start to, force in your authority. You say I am the client, you listen to me. Yeah. So these are the kind of common things. These are all human nature. So in order to stop all this or to prevent all this, we would generally like to have a contract in the picture. Okay, so that contract is law. It's a harsher form. I think it's regular board of QS, board of engineers, board of architects. Moral is something that you learn from school, from family, from culture, and of course from partially religion as well. So this whole thing, if let's say I enter into a project, I enter into this transaction using moral only, can we all imagine the mess that we're going to be in? Huh? If we only go in with ethics only, I would say the chances is 50% now, because in terms of ethics, you also be penalized. There's some form of penalty involved if you don't follow the regulations. But in terms of law, when you have a contract, if you don't follow, you will be definitely committing a wrong. It is wrong in the eyes of law. Okay, So within the contractor environment, we will list down the behavior. What is the right of the client? The client is supposed to, at the end of the day, have the project, have the product, have the service provided to them, deliver in a timely manner, deliver in a diligent manner, deliver in the way that you want it to be delivered. Okay? And you have the right for the contractor to come and work on your project, or come and work on your site, or come to deliver the things to your factories, or to deliver their machineries to work in your factory environment, or whatever. Okay? There is a right. You have that right. So the contract will state, in whatever circumstances, what is the client's right. If the contractor don't do certain things, what is your right? Can you sack them? Can you kick them out? Can you not pay them? You know, like there is a lot of rights that you have to safeguard yourself. Okay? And on the contractor's end, their right is to they deserve payment. You know, they do the work, you need to pay them. Correct now? Yeah? So these are the right of a contractor. If the client don't pay, what is their right? What can they do? You see? If there's a delay, what can they do? What is their right is to apply for extension of time. What is the superintending officer's right? Many things needs to be signed by him, confirmed by him, verified, endorsed by the engineers, architect, or the superintending officer, or we call them SO, or the supervisors of the job. Okay. Then what is their obligation? What is the duty? What is the responsibility? The client must pay the contractor. That is their duty. The client should grant them VO if there is any changes due to the client's own requirement, or the represented agent, consultant, or designer's problem. That is their duty. The contractor's duty is to do the work diligently, deliver the project timely, to carry out, to deliver the material on time, to do the work, to actually submit whatever claims, whatever paperwork, whatever report that is stated within the contract. This is like a OP, you know. A contract is like an SOP for everybody to behave. It's just like when your kids go to school, you tell them SOP. You know, some of you have children. SOP, you go to school, you don't naka, until the teacher hit you. This one is that you give them the SOP. You must, mommy send lunch, you must eat. This one is SOP. If you don't eat 70%, you don't come home, then the kids throw everything in the rubbish bin. You see, so this behavior, again, you know, like we're joking, yeah, but similarly, we need SOP. So a contract is the SOP. You get it that way. But SOP that comes with penalty, and SOP that is legal, that is valid in the eyes of the law. So we need that. Okay? So let's move on now to the first thing that we are concerned about when it's a project, when there is a project. Okay. When you sign a contract, let me go down to the next here. When you sign a contract, the day that you sign the contract, or when the site is being given to you as the service provider, or the project, or the award, or the PO, you know, it's gone to you, you know, as you are a service provider. They call it service order, or PO, purchase order. Or in terms of most contract environment, it will be a award, you know, a letter of award from the client. So you understand when I use the word client, SO, and contractor service provider, these are the things that we will be talking about. So now in terms of time, you know, what is the duties and the roles of everybody involved in generally when it comes to time of the project? Are we clear about that? I mean, like so far what I've gone through with you, I mean, like, do you see where the directions that we are going? Yeah. Anyone wants I mean, is everybody still okay? Are you still alive? I'm not muted or anything like that, right? Like talk for a few hours, then later on I was scrolling my message. Did anybody tell me that, doctor, I can't hear you? Yeah. All right. So let's go for the first area in the contract that is quite common, quite all the time happening, because the moment you receive the PO or service order, there will be a timeline given to you within the service order. Then there will be a start date given to you. So if that service order, it could be something written there like from 2 weeks of the service order, from 3 months of the service order. When they award the contract, it means that you have to come and sign. And when you sign, is the site given to you or the area given to you to do the project is already being, ready, it's already ready, then the start date will start. You see, why is it important we know the start date? Because we need to deliver the project on time, and we're dealing with completion. And if we cannot complete the project on time, that means you are not being released of your contractual obligation, and you may be penalized. It is something wrong for you not to complete the job on time. So to meet that work completion is so important to the client. This is the right of the client. This is the responsibilities of the service provider, the contractors, or the builder. Okay, it's very important, the work completion. But before we can talk about completion, we must understand the beginning, start date. If we don't understand our start date, how are you going to talk about completion? You can't, you see. So we need to know our duties, our responsibilities is all within that time period, from start date to completion date. I have been asked this many times, and I've got people who actually sometimes friends, sometimes ex-students, or sometimes it can be just, some people from the industry seeking advice. They will ask me, Dr. Ting, this project of mine, we are in delay and blah, 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 blah. They talk about their problems or their issues with me. And I normally ask them, when exactly is the start date of the project? Because without defining that start date, the rest is just like no point. Okay. If the project never starts, then what are you talking about completion? What do you mean by delay? It's relative. So the work completion is relative to the start date. So everybody must understand, when is your project start date. Every engineer must be clear. There is no such thing as, oh, wait a minute, let me go and check. And there is many versions of the start date. Some start date says that the moment the letter is being awarded to you, it's already start. Okay? But is that true? It cannot simply say one. Unless it's very specifically saying in the contract that the date of starting date of the project is the letter of award date. Normally we won't do that as well, because when you award, there is only a quasi-contract. Quasi-contract means that there's still 3/4% chance that the contract may not get it. It's just an indication to the contractor or the service provider that you are getting the job. See? You're very, very sure that you're getting the job. But we still cannot treat it as a start date. Then what do you mean? What do you mean by you cannot treat it as a start date? They tell you, I'm giving the job to you already. You cannot treat it as a start date? No, because it has to be proper signing of the contract. And even if it's a proper signing of the contract on today, let's say 25th of March, you and I sit down, we sign the contract, we talk. Okay? There will still be dispute here. Is it really the signing of the contract, or is it the stamping date? Meaning that you take this and go to the stamping office. The moment the stamping office stamp it, then dia baru jadi start date. This is the start date, most likely. if it's stated in the contract, many contracts I see not dealing with engineering or not dealing with project, if they will put, hey, this memorandum of agreement will only start upon stamping. So even if you sign, you cannot tell your, you understand? Yeah. So when we say relative to that, when you say something is very far away, when something is very bad, when something is very lousy, when something is very good, when something is wonderful, there's never anything absolute here. It's always we're relative to something. This is a very bad situation for me. It's not a bad situation for you. It is a very good situation for you, but it's not a very good situation for me, maybe. Is this all? It's all relative. So we must understand that relative to your own project, all clauses within the contract, what is the start date? It may not be the award date, it may not be the signing date, but if it's written there, the signing date will be the start date, then you have to follow. The clock will start to tick. It makes absolute importance that when you click start on your clock, if your project is 12 months and today you click start, the moment that you click start, that is the starting. So you have 12 months from today's date. Date lah, no need time lah. Date. 12 months will be 24th of March 2024. That will be the date of completion. Okay. So you can see.
Doctor, sorry, if I may ask.
Okay.
So you're saying, let's say a contract between the client and contractor, right? In the contract stated saying that the project duration and then the project starts on, let's say today, 25th March. Is it 25th?
Yeah, today is 25th March.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so in the contract documents, it already stated that the project will start on 25th March 2023 and the project duration will be 12 months, let's say. However, the contract document itself is not signed by both parties yet. Will the contract still valid? I mean, the project duration, will it still be considered as the project started on the 25th March?
No, because there will be another elements here, which usually will involve what we call possession of site. So if you don't give site access or you don't give your contractor access to your site, complete access to your site, that can also be an argument that whatever that you state there, because not only because the contract, the signing is not done, because when the signing is not done, it will never be valid. It has to be signed.
Because usually it's like this general procedure of JKR is we will issue out the letter of award to contractor 1 month
Correct.
before the site possession date. Right. And then we will have
by signing.
Yeah, that is the issue. What I want to my question is because sometimes even after the kickoff meeting, the letter of award, everything settled, but the contract is still not signed yet. So I wonder whether the contract is valid or not. I mean, like the project start.
No, it's not valid because if the date there is just any of the conditions of the contract only. It's just any part of the contract. So nothing within the contract will be applicable if it's not signed.
Yeah.
There's no agreement yet. There's no sitting down. A contract basically means that both of you sit down and you sign, or one person sign, the other person must sign. Maybe through
because there's usually after the project is being awarded, maybe not for all project but some of the project that I've encountered is the project is already being awarded, the contract period is already starting. However, the contract document itself, there's still some rationalization of the BQ, everything, so it's not signed yet. So that's why usually sign after 3 or 6 months after the after the kickoff meeting, after the LA is awarded to the contractor. So that's why I always think, is it a valid contract or not? So because we also cannot pay before the contract is signed.
Correct. Yeah. You
We
already
cannot
answered
issue payment if the contract is not signed. That is one of the issue. And then
Correct.
just now, like you mentioned, as client, we need to pay the work done by contractor. However, we are unable to pay because Treasury will ask for the contract document. However, it's not signed yet. So yeah, that's why that's one of the issue lah. Yeah, I want to ask your advice or your opinion now if you can share. Thank you, Doctor.
No problem. Yes. This is precisely sorry to say lah, if government agencies are behaving that way, it's actually not because the contractor is actually this way. When the contract is not signed, okay lah. I ask a very simple question now. If let's say you want to buy a house, right? And you go to or not to say you want to buy a house, you go to buy any small item now, you go to the seller, okay, and then you tell them that I want this particular item. Let's say I want this particular car, or I want this particular phone. Yeah. You can, even if you pay the deposit, okay, even if you pay the deposit and then you don't sign anything, right? It is still within a certain period of time, normally within a certain validity period of the, of a contract. If the seller wants to pay, if the seller wants to be making a fuss, or they actually wanted to create problem, or they want to play some games, then you are actually on the losing side. That's why I can say that most of the time, if JKR are going into a dispute, let's say if you go to court with the contractors, or if you go to arbitration or actually mediation with the contractor, most of the time you guys will be on the losing side, because in the first place your procedures is already wrong. So if I want to buy a house and I go to a developer and I tell the developer I want this particular lot 1, 2, 3, okay, and I haven't signed anything yet, I put $5,000 deposit for this particular house, okay, if I don't come back within a certain period of time to sign the contract properly, I will still say that, if the seller decided to sell to another person and return $10,000 to you, because 5,000 double the penalty, he give you 10,000, he sell it to another person, he is not wrong, because you didn't sign the contract. The moment you don't sign a contract, there's no confirmation. It's not legal in the eyes of the law, That's why your treasury will ask you for that. How can I pay people when you don't even give me the proper documents? Before signing, anything can change one. So the right procedures is actually sign first. Does it make sense to you, Jessica?
Yeah, it does. Actually, it does. And then, yeah, we do need, because it's beyond my pay grade, actually, Doctor. That's why you want to question this also, like very, very hard lah. So, so I just want to know whether, because my understanding is actually the contract is not valid yet because it's not signed.
No.
So no matter what, also it's very legally it's wrong lah. I think my understanding is like that lah. But yeah lah, like you said, it makes sense lah. So yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Doctor.
No problem. It's just a matter of the other side are not picking up a fuss about it. You see? If they decided to kick a fuss about it, if they want to play with the things like extension of time because you haven't signed a contract, I cannot start the job, I cannot mobilize, blah, 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 they have every reason to do that, Most contractors don't do that, and they don't want to make up a fuss. It's just because they just want to have a continuous relationship with the client. That's all. They don't want to kick up a fuss. Does not mean that you are there, the other side don't pick up a fuss does not mean that whatever action that you have been doing is correct, you see? No, without a proper contract, this is not signing means that in the Contract Act, you see, intention to create a legal relation. And that intention to create a legal relations, it means that going up to each other's and read the contract documents carefully and sign the contract and then bring it to stamping. Okay, it's only after you stamp there will be, it is completely legal, unavoidable, it's an absolute in the eyes of the law of Malaysia. This is a legal document. If you don't stamp it in some cases, it is still legal. It's just that there may be later on some sort of argument on that, a little bit of argument, but if it's the signature are all there with the IC and all that, it means that both of you have already read all the conditions and they agree to it. So if you don't sign means that whatever thing you write inside there is you write whatever you want, I think whatever I want, is nothing to do with each other. You don't have that valid relationship. Okay, so yes, I think Jessica also, you understand that this is really a problem. I think organization needs to be very careful in terms of doing this, because if you don't sign a contract, and then even though you put down there 25th of March, and then you sign the contract 3 months later, and then the reason being the contractors still say that this is a valid date, they still agree to it. It's just because they don't want to kick up a fuss about it, you know. If they want to kick up a fuss about it, they want to go for arbitration, they want to go for like whatever reason, then, you know, or whatever dispute thing, you know, like most of the time the person, you know, you will be on the losing side, you know, the client this time will be on the losing side. Why didn't you provide the documents to them, especially if they have been asking for it, you know? So you cannot say that they keep quiet also means that, you know, it's okay. You know? This is really the right way. Because people don't make noise does not mean that they are agreeing to it, you see? So this is something that we have to be very, very careful with, actually. So again, start date is, there's many layers here. First, you need to have the letter of award, but letter of award only gives the contractor a quasi-right, meaning that this is also what we consider a quasi-contract. Okay, so after you do the letter of award, and then 6 months later, you decided that you don't want to give the job to the contractor, or for some reason, the contract has already, for some reason, there may be some event that cannot start the contract. Or you don't prepare the documents for them to sign. So they have already prepared maybe some delivery of material, they have ordered some of the materials and all that. They have the right to claim the client. Why? Because a letter of award is a quasi-contract. It's only a letter of intent that has no legal bonding. Legal bonding comes with letter of award. The moment you have a letter of award, it is a prelude to contract signing. So after letter of award, normally 1 month later, you need to sort out all your rationalization of rates or whatever, or your site possession. It needs to be sorted out unless you write to the contractor and say that we need to delay this particular award signing contract for certain, due to certain reason. Then it can be pushed behind. Otherwise, within certain period, like let's say it's stated there letter of award 60 days or 30 days or 90 days, there must be signing ceremony or some form of expedite of signing. Okay, so when the expedite of signing, after you sign, then on the day itself of signing, does it mean that it is actually site possession date? Usually is the case, but there must be a proper procedure stating to the builder or service provider that it is this date. Today we sign, then today will be the date of start date. The clock will start today. It will be stated during the signing, okay, or in the document when you sign, that is based on the date that is put down there as a start date. If the contractor look at the date and they don't agree to the date, let's say like your case, they put 25th of March, but actually the contract is only signed 3 months later. How would I, as a contractor, trust you as a client to actually really give me a contract? 3 months is a long time. You can start another COVID with 3 months, okay? how would I know that nothing will change in this 3 months? How would I dare to commit my material, my few $1 million ordering of material all arriving on my site, and you haven't even given me a proper contract to sign yet? I, as a contractor, have every right not to accept that as a valid start date, So those contractors that actually goes in and start to order materials, start to listen to the client and say that the contract date, the contract start date is 25th of March, but he is only signing the contract 3 months later, and yet in between he's doing his job and not receiving his money. There's only two types of persons here that will do this. Number one is they are desperately in need of job and they don't want to make a scenario with JKR, or they are just very ignorant. They have not looked at contract. They don't know what is a contract. They don't even know that they are being abused. And definitely that's the word we call it, abuse. The client, JKR, is definitely abusing your contractor. Like I say, because you have the power. Okay? So don't read, because you are one of the biggest client in the state. People don't want to be on the wrong side of the book with you. It does not mean that it is right. If we go to court, in the eyes of the law, you are wrong. You can be penalized. Okay? So that is my actual conclusion of this. So once you've got this signing date, return date, that signing date will be the site of handing over date, which means on this day is site possession. Okay, and that will be the starting of the clock. And the other problem that we usually see is site the handing over, meaning that in some project, no, in some service providing or in some service providing, yes, probably yes. But if we say that let's say ordering PO, purchase order and all that, they will usually call it a lead time, and in service providing also they sometimes call it a lead time, meaning that you need to give them some time to order. Yeah, so the contract don't start after, it's only starting after certain date, you see. So you need to have a 30 days lead time for ordering. Then the delivery will be 30 days later or 60 days later or something like that. See? So same goes with design. Or design is service providing. Let's say if I'm a consultant or I'm a designer, I want to, I get you to, I quote you a job saying that I want to charge this amount of money, and I will put it there, my timeline as date of signing, you see. 2 months to deliver the design upon signing of the agreement. That is what normally people would say. So if you don't sign agreement, I don't have to start the job. Okay. Same goes with that. Same goes with any service provider. So not every project will need a site handing over. It depends on the nature of the project or nature of the product or whatever. But most civil engineering project, construction project, we will have a site handing over there because the site is such a big area. If you don't properly hand over the site to the contractor or the builder, it's almost impossible for them to start their job, mobilize everything and go in and start working, see? So site possession is another issue that we will talk about in a short while later. It's part and parcel of this, you see, of this start date. So site handing over is an important element to give the site to the contractor. All right. But like what Jessica says, what if we already give the site to the supervisor, we have a kickoff meeting, but the contract not signed? It still boils down to the contract signing. Okay. That is the basic fundamental rules here. Contract signing. Right. So even if you have already given the site, the contractor is not going in to do the work, you cannot make the whole pile out of it. You can guys are going to date the date is 24th of March. The contractor asks you if they are clever they will ask you, where's my contract? I signed contract like you, if I mobilize everything, and then 2 months later you tell me that there's another project, another MCO, I cannot start the project. Then how? Semua saya mati, all my cash flow die. Or not, Nickman, you are a contractor here. Would you take the risk if the project is so big? Huh? You will only take the risk, like I said, because first of all, you are ignorant now. You don't know. Number two is you have no choice. Huh? Because they are government departments, so they ask you to, right? There's an element of fear there. So then the engineers and the administrator of that particular organization, as they know they have the power, so therefore they are using that power to suppress. You see? Suppress that and make it to their advantage. This is what I say. Human beings are like that. When you have the power, when you have the authority, you will use it. You see? And the other party will fear. Huh? If you want to read this experiment done, you can go and read on Philip Zimbardo, the prison experiment. We call it the Lucifer effect. Go home, go and read about it, and you will know. This is a Stanford experiment on prisoners' effect. You know, prison guards are given authority to look after, to guard the prisoners. And that experiment, after the experiment is done, it was very clear that when people start to have power in their hand, they would tend to want to go overboard and even harm another human being who is not wrong, because in the experiment, the other party in the prison, they are not actually committing a crime. They are just one part of the experiment. And we all know that they're part of the experiment. So they get abused, they get abused, and they get a lot of, harm done to them. And then you may ask me, why didn't they say something? Why didn't they actually attack back? Again, you can see that from the experiment, it's already very clear. After being abused for a long period of time, people lost it. They started to think that they deserve it. They rationalize their pain. They rationalize their injustice that is being done on them. So based on this simple experiment, you will see that why our industry is going in that direction as well. So we have to be careful. Yeah? But if we do have one or two prisoners who knows their right, then the whole story will change already. If we have one or two prisoners who stand up and say that we're not going to take this, you see, then you are going to be in trouble. And there are many contractors over the history of Malaysia that actually sue KKR, they actually sue the client, regardless of whether they're government or not. And many of them actually win the case. And this is directly from people who are actually some of the senior in JKR, whom I know, tell me that. Because they say that in the first place, most of the time we lose because our procedures was wrong in the first place. Already salah. So you really can see that, okay? So site handing over is another important element. If you don't have site handing over, the contractor don't have to go to work, okay? No matter what you say, they don't have to go to work. They must have the site. Whether they do their preparation or not, whether they actually buy the material or not, is the risk that they have to take. If they decide to take the risk and order earlier without signing or without site handing over, that is the risk that they took up. And they know it's the risk that they took up. If they don't want it, also you cannot force it. You cannot say that you're wrong. Look at the contract, you salah. You cannot do that. And if you don't give site handing over and there was a delay at the end of the day, you have to give EOT, because this is not the contractor's problem. Okay? It is because the client could not hand over the site. Even if the contractor don't want to order anything, they don't want to mobilize, they don't want to do anything, and upon site handing over, there's no site handing over. And then when there's a site handing over, they start to mobilize, and because of that, there's a delay. Then you have to, if they apply for extension of time, you have to give it to them. Because obviously, supposed to be after you sign a contract within a certain period of time, you must give possession. You must hand over the site. So based on that particular reason alone, they can say that because you hand over 1 month late due to maybe issues with land, issues with on the what you call, some of the rural areas you cannot give possession because the land is not properly brought over by the authority or there are some issues regarding heritage culture or with the native then it has to be sorted out by the client. Okay, and there's another element following this that sometimes some people play with, and it is not right to do that as well. And contractors sometimes play with that because why? They will say that site handing over, because in the contract, in many contracts, they will say that when the contractor wants to mobilize, they must inform the engineer 1 week ahead or 7 days or 10 days ahead. If you read most of the contract, they will state that very clearly there. So meaning that they will inform the engineer that they will be coming in, like, let's say 25th, today I get site handing over. And in the contract, it says that within about 7 days or 10 days, you have to mobilize. But the contractor needs to write to the client and tell them that we are coming. So there's some misunderstanding that the start date will be that day that they go to site. No, it will be always the final, certain 100% super sure date will be the site handing over date. Okay, so the fundamental, the prelude to any valid start date is number one, not the letter of award, but the signing of the contract, and then the site handing over. These two has to be there, complete, before you can say that that is the start date. And then if that start date started and the contractor don't mobilize within the period given to them, say if it's written there that they must come in 14 days, but they must inform 7 days earlier, then these are the procedures that they have to follow. These are SOP, but that is not the start date. So if there is any mobilization issues, then that is a contractor's mobilization issue. Okay, so that is a part that the client can say to the contractor that the start date is already there, but how come you're not mobilizing? You can actually follow up, you can actually warn them, you can actually push them to start. Okay, because it's written there. But that is not the start date. Mobilization date cannot be the start date. You understand? So that also brings back to the original question just now. It's like we already have a kickoff meeting. They have already mobilized. You see, so can that be the start date? No, it's always that fundamental prelude for any start date, for any legal valid start date is the signing and also the handing over. Are we clear about that?
Yes, doctor. Thank you. Very eye-opening.
Yeah, no problem. But I hope I'm right. Yeah, I think I am, but yeah. But still sometimes, different organizations, they may want to twist it differently. Yeah. Then once you have the handing date and you resign the contract, the start date will start. That will be the date that you start. Then we are all working towards the importance, the important day that is a day of completion. Okay, so whatever period that you set down there, 12 months, 18 months, 6 months, 3 months, or 30 days, 90 days of delivery, whatsoever, from a start date, it's the beginning. Okay, so you add on 18 days and all that. Then we will go into that date of completion. And completion is a very important date because that is the right of the client. I want my project to be completed. And of course, as a contractor, I want my project to be completed as well because I can ask for my payment, I can ask for release of my retention sum. I can be released of my contractual obligations. All the contractual obligation except for the defect liability period. Okay, and then the product is handed over to the client already. After that, once this is over, I am basically free to go and do other things. So it is a very important day for both parties. Even though it may sound like the contractor's obligation, it may sound like it is the obligation on the contractor's part. Yeah. And it is a right of the client, but the contractor also wants that to be done, I mean, any contractor with a sound mind, they are palak, tidak rosak, they want to finish a job. I don't see a reason why they don't want to complete the job unless there's something in there that is holding him back. Like, for example, this is for example, this is for example, this is what you call the cost plus contract. Cost plus is a cost plus a management fees type of contract. So they don't want a contract to end because of cost plus management fees, or like additional fees or fixed fees or whatever. Then because they just want to be continuing in the job, so that they can continue to get paid, you see, on the fixed fees part. But that is because that kind of nature of contract, then the contractor don't want to finish the job. Normally we would want to, huh? I mean, like, normally most contractor will want to actually. So then, what is the criteria for completion? That is something that we also need to be very careful. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have went through this before, like the contractor said, I finished the job, and then you say, no, the job is not done. So where is the standard for that? Anyone have this sort of issues before? You have a huge dispute about completion. Because there's not a proper obvious criteria being set for completion. What do you mean by full completion? As a contractor, I said that I finished all my job already. And then you said, no, you still got defects here, still got problem here, there's still workmanship issues. Is that constitute as non-completion? So there must be a very clear definition here. Normally, we would say if it's defects that does not affect the final performance of the product, if it's a full defect that you cannot even work the machines, or the plant doesn't run, or the whole particular product cannot be used, obviously it's not complete, correct or not? I'm common sense in that way, huh? So that could be the mark. When we say fit for its intended purpose, also does not mean that only can use that is good enough. It's not the quality mark, okay? But that can be the completion mark. You understand? The quality could be that you need to do it straight, you need to do it clean, you need to do it whatever, beautiful or whatever. That is one thing. But if you talk about whether it's completed or not, it should be fit for its intended purpose. But obviously, if you say that the window is only partially, but if you don't pasang the window, you don't pasang the door, obviously it's not fit for its intended purpose. People can climb in and take all the things, take all the plumbing fittings and run away with it, and that is not completion. So you must have a proper performance, meaning that it can be, a house can actually be, people can stay in it already. But if there is a crack on the wall or certain painting that scrap off, these are called minor defects, you see. There must not be any very obvious defects that will actually affect the work, the purpose of the products or the performance of the products. We have to be clear about that. But obviously, if you do state that it has to be accepted by certain authority, let's say certain projects to be accepted by the JBAL, it has to be accepted by JKR, has to be accepted by sign conform. That one, if it's dealing, it may deal with what we call customer satisfaction or standard of workmanship, but these things is preferably, if you have the first kick-off meeting, you must describe this thing as clearly as possible. And I find that most people, most industry player, in the first kick-off meeting, you don't deal with that. You don't want, you just fail to deal with the idea of completion. And that could sometimes bring issues to yourself. Okay, that can sometimes bring issues to yourself at later stage, you see. So it's better to define it. Is that okay? If we say, if later on when we talk about handing over, we need to see minimum of what? We must see that, okay, let's say pipeline, we must have water pressure chart study, the pressure chart report that must be completed up to 9 bar. Then we will only deem that as completion, or certain testing of the facilities or certain performance that is being met. So stage it down there during the kickoff meeting so that everybody is aware of what they think they know about full completion or the entire completion. Right. And then, so completion date will actually means a lot, okay? You will normally, before the full completion means that the final completion date, we will normally have what we call practical completion. And this is a very standard industry practice that we have to use the word practical completion. This part here, like I say, it has to, the fit for its intended purpose will usually be this, you see, and it's considered as complete, at that point whereby you want to be released of your responsibilities, but this stage is the part that you will move in to your defect liability period. Full completion is after the defect liability period. And after defect liability period, there must not be any obvious defect anymore, no more pattern defects. And obviously, if there's some latent defects, we also cannot see it until after a period of time. And if there is any latent defects, hopefully it will come out during the completion, full completion date. If it still don't come out during the full completion date, but a few years after that, and then that will be something that the client will probably has to bear the problem, and getting people to come and do repair. But if, let's say, any latent defects that show up during the defect liability period, you will actually sorry, what I'm saying is that it's hopefully that you will see it during that period. But if you don't see it during that period and then it does come out later, then it's not the responsibilities of the contractor anymore, because it could have caused by many other issues, such as flooding, such as natural disaster. So we cannot define that properly. So we only hope that any latent defect, latent defect is something that is concealed, that is like, maybe it's underground, it's in the piling, or maybe it's in the walls, in the ceiling, or whatever, in the roofing, that is not obvious in the first place, but after a few years or after a certain period of time, it will show up, okay? So we fix for its intended purpose, we will normally mark it as this practical completion first. So normally after your start date, 18 months, you do the job. At the day that you call for a site checking, and then completing the site checking, it will be considered that as a completion date. And you may ask me, what would the contractor be? I mean, would the contractor actually says that what is the actual completion date here? Say 24th of March 2024 next year. And the contractor write in on the 24th of March and say that my job is complete. I've already done in accordance to the drawings and contract, and he requests for certificate of practical completion. The procedures usually would involve having a site walkabout, meaning that you will gather all the client and the relevant authority to come and check on everything, check on the testing report and all that. And let's say it happens 2 weeks later. Would you give the date as 2 weeks later when you finish the inspection, or would you give it as the 24th of March, which is the day that the contractor write in for completion? The answer is if there's no issue, if there's no if there's no hot issues, a very big issue, for example, there is really obvious defect that actually will affect the performance of the job. Normally, any small defect, any pattern defects, we will just simply put it under the defect liability period and get the contractor to do amendments. But if let's say some of the must testing is not done yet, functional testing, completeness testing, inconvenience testing, those testings are not done yet, you cannot stipulate that as the finish date. Whatever test that you do, it must be done before, before the completion date. And when a contractor write in and say that I've already completed the job, even though your inspection comes 1 month later, 2 months later, or 1 week later, 3 weeks later, it doesn't matter. Unless if all these documents are already there, practically the performance is already there, meeting the requirement, the place is already practically completed, meaning that it's already fit for its intended purpose, you have to award the completion based on the day that he write in. Okay, so the certificate will be based on that, because if you don't base it on that, then you are asking him to pay for defect liability period. Okay, sorry, what am I talking about? You're asking him to pay for liquidated damage. So that is not right. So obviously it has to be the date that, not the date of inspection. But if there is an issue here, let's say 3 weeks later, there's an issue. It's a very big issue. Okay, it's a very big issue that it shows that the testing is not done, or the performance is not there, the place is leaking, then they don't give practical completion. They don't want to give practical completion, means that obviously the contractor is already in delay. Understand? Okay. So even though you say that, why did you tell me that 1 week earlier, or 2 weeks earlier, or 3 weeks, let's say your inspection only comes like 1 month later. So obviously you don't delay the inspection date as much as possible. You don't, people write to you and then you 2 months later go for inspection. And then you found out that there was a problem, and then you say you don't want to give practical completion because of this non-completion, or there's some leakage or whatever. Because some of the problem could come within that period whereby nobody is working on site, somebody damaged it or whatever. It's not the fault of the contractor that you don't come and do inspection as early as possible. So as early as diligently, this is not written, but it's actually a standard that when you receive practical completion request, you arrange for that within about 7 to 10 days. It's just like when you've already been given site handover, within about 7 to 10 days, the maximum 14 days, you need to mobilize. That is expected. This is what we call, is non-written. Like site handing over and mobilization is some contract writes it, some contract don't write it, okay? But even if you don't write it, it is supposed to be something that's very fundamental, that you're not supposed to, it's a common practice. And common practice in terms of law, it is actually practicable as well. So meaning that you will normally do as what most people would do. The judge will ask you, the court will ask you. So what is the normal standard for mobilization? If the more normal standard is 7 to 14 days and you're within the 7 to 14 days, normally there's no issue. Okay. And if let's say practical completion is within that 7 to 14 days, you come out and do practical completion inspection, the court will ask you, what is the normal standard? The normal standard, the normal industry standard is this. So you cannot say that because of I cannot compel everybody, this is not free, that is not free. Well, that is not the right reason. No judges will put up with that, You get what I mean? It's like, that is bullshit. No, nobody is free. So if you're not free, you get somebody to stand in for you lah. So does that mean that the world cannot revolve if there's one person who died and cannot go on anymore? There's no such thing. It's a very cruel world. Life goes on. You cannot go for inspection. You need to get somebody to do it. Go and do it. Your second man, your replacement. You cannot be like, oh, this guy cannot come, and then tomorrow that guy cannot come, and then you can only get a date whereby 10 guys can all come at the same time. There's no such thing. There is always a standard that you have to follow, which is called industry standard. So industry standards, the 5 to 10 days, the 10 days, 11 days, 14 days, normally within, or sometimes they can say within the month that you ask for practical inspection, completion inspection, then it has to be within that month. So if you're out of that, let's say you come 2 months later and there's really a problem and you don't give practical completion, supposed to be that 1 month that you didn't come for inspection cannot be counted as a delay. Understand? Yeah. So you cannot penalize. Yeah, you cannot penalize a contractor for the time that you cannot make a time to come and do inspection. Right? So when practical completion finished, there will be a certificate of practical completion that needs to be issued, normally in accordance to the date that the contractor write in to request for practical completion, and the subsequent inspection shows that there is no pattern defect and all the work has been completed for practical purposes. Okay, and most tests, all of the tests that is important, not most, all of the tests that is stated as important to the performance of the facilities or performance of the product has to be there, that is there, then it will be awarded according to that particular date that they request for inspection. Understand? Okay. So anything trivial, anything small that needs to be done, it will be done. It will be put under what we call a defect liability period. And defect liability period, it means that the contractor he can demobilize everybody except for a few guys around, or 1 or 2 machines around, some equipments around, to actually do clean up the site, to actually make sure that everything else is working and clean up any small defects that come up within that 12 months period. That 12 months, the contractor don't have to be there all the 12 months. If the defect liability period is 24 months, the contractor don't have to station on the site for 24 months. So it will be stated that any defects, trivial defects, or any defects in the defect list must be done within 30 days or 60 days. It has to be stated within how many days. So once that is done, then the rest of the time, the contractors are basically standing by. They don't have to place a full team or even a half team or whatever personnel on site to actually look after the site, because that one will be fully handed over to the client already. The client will probably be selling the house, or people will be moving in and all that, people doing renovation work, etc., etc. So you don't have to be stationed there. But then within that period of defect liability, even though it's stated there 12 months, but there will be a period stated that you must clean up all the defects. And it's very important that the contractor do that within that period. There is also something called sectional completion, meaning that I'm pretty sure people with Pan Borneo, you're very familiar with this. There's different sections that is completed and handed over at different time. So difference, if we, let's say, go for a full project that goes for sectional completion will be treated like the whole process, the whole procedures will be treated exactly like the full contract. So it means that you will be breaking up the section into like a small contract itself, but all the terms and conditions will still be applicable. Okay. And yeah, I mean, sectional completion does not necessarily means that it's because of partial possession. This is dealt with differently, because sectional completion can be planned. It can be pre-planned, meaning that from the beginning, you know that you have to hand over certain sections first. But then it's in the same contract, so all the terms and conditions apply. Okay, it's just that that particular section will have a different completion date with the rest, and when it's handed over, the rest of the defect liability, everything will also start as it is. It's not with the rest of the defect liability period. Okay, so let's say there's 2 sections, Rock A and Rock B. the whole project is supposed to be finished by 24th of March next year. And then it's stated, pre-plan means that it's already stated within the contract that section Rock A has to be taken over before December 31st. You know, it's actually a term of one of the closest date. So then that road must be handed over on the 31st of March. Otherwise, everything in the contract will be applicable the same way. The LAD, the defects. Then when you hand over also the testing, everything has to be exactly the same as the whole normal contract. Okay. And there's another kind of sectional completion that comes not planned, but later on. So meaning halfway into the project, the client suddenly wants road A, you know, first. Then yeah, upon negotiation, it is doable. So, but you cannot force, because if it's not pre-planned, you cannot force it. You have the right to ask for it. But if there's big issues, with, let's say, most of the work are not done, or material problems, or manpower problem, or whatever reason that cannot be done, then you cannot really force it also, you know. It has to be in agreement, because the original contract is a full contract. So even though most contracts they put in that right for sectional completion, I would ask, why would the client want to, you know, get themselves into a dispute when the contractor are obviously not being able to do that sectional completion, and then you really want to request a sectional completion? I mean, even if you force it, then there will be other issues like delays, extension of time, LAD, and all that. So don't trouble for yourself, put it this way. If it's obvious, then logically they cannot do it. Then even if you want it, you also will need to maybe adjust the sectional completion date a little bit. It's all, I mean, like, to me, a contract is to govern human behavior, but we are talking about human here. So most of the time, you need to negotiate, you need to talk, you need to find some goodwill with one another. Don't just use law and contract as a power, but use it as the foundation to negotiate. Use it as a foundation to talk to one another, to request, and also to discuss, you know. And through that, the aim is to complete the project in a good way. So sometimes you want to force it, you can say that the contract says so, you force it, but practically it cannot be done. Then you're just going to start a very big contractual issues that are a dispute, you know, that later on makes everybody on site very angsty, very angry, very unhappy, you know, and then it will just get worse, you know, and things are not done. And obviously what you want, you cannot get, and it just gets into, it's actually not a problem to start off with if you can talk about it, but it becomes a very big problem because you want to force it, you see. So, like I said, this is human. Contract is something fixed. It's what we call a dead thing. You know, it's something that is mati punya. Human is the one that administer it. So do it with reasonableness. Do it with logic. Jangan tak logic, you know. Sometimes we will say, these people, no logic one. Why you want to do something like that? You know, so it's no logic. So you do it with logic, do it with reason. Then normally, client side, contractor side, be open to discussion. When people ask me about contractual advice, I would normally say that this is what you have, this is your right, you know. But do you want to think about a discussion first? Can we actually just talk about it first and see if there's any better ways of resolving it than falling back onto the contract and trying to point out what is my right and what is your right, what is your responsibilities, and blah, 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 and then get into that very adversarial mode and then end up making enemies and end up the job is not done. You know, so it is human who are administering it. So when humans are administering it, we are not AI, okay? We are not AI. We are not robots. So we have common sense, we have logic, we have reasoning, we have consciousness. We can talk, you know? So always, before you fall back onto the contract, talk about it first, you know? Discuss first. understand first, understand each other's first. You know, don't jump into it and start to fight. Yeah, contract is not a way for fighting. It's actually a way to safeguard, just to give everybody an understanding of what is the bottom line here. Yeah, okay, that is my very personal opinion about contract. Even though I'm a contract, you know, I won't say I'm a contract expert, but I am actually a contract based kind of researcher. So to me, at the end of the day, it's still human being that you need to deal with, you know. So having a good bottom line, letting everybody know what is their right and responsibility is very important. Everybody knows how to behave, and if you don't know how to behave, there's some penalty waiting for you. We all get that, you know. We must all get that. And then, but in the day when you administer it, go for the human element first before you go into that hardcore contract. Okay. All right. So and of course, like I said, completion of work. Okay. Sectional completion. Let me finish that. So sectional completion, if let's say it's unplanned, then it's pretty much a goodwill of both ends to actually take it up or not take it up. So you cannot force it, even though the contract has that writing on that. That means it has that day only means that the client can choose to exercise that right. Okay, but in the end, it has to be agreed also by the service provider. It's just like in manufacturing, you tell people that, you know, the contract is actually for like 100, you know, electric cars. But because of your own reason, you want to have 20 or 30 electric cars first before the due date. So you can exercise that right and say that can I request for 30 to be delivered to me first? You can. If it's not written there, you can't even book up the mulut. You can't even open your mouth and ask. Okay, but if there is there, it gives you the right to open your mouth. But whether it can be done or not, whether the other side wants to do it or not, because why? The other side, there's no reason why the other side, if they can do it, they want to reject this. Simply because if, let's say, they can hand over the 30 cars a little bit earlier, not to say that, not to think about transportation costs and all that, like you need to pay for that, you know, if let's say you want the sectional completion. So if they say that delivery is not an issue, the date of delivery is not an issue, my things can be done, 30, I can rush the 30 for you, it's good. You get that done, you get the payment first, but and the defect will be, for that 30 cars will be short, it'll be brought forward earlier, huh? So the defect will not be the contract plus that defect, you know, it will be the day that you hand over plus the defect. So meaning that if you hand over 3 months earlier, that means in the future, your defect for these 30 cars will be 3 months earlier as well. So actually, there's no harm. There's no harm. There's no reason why any contractor or any service provider or any manufacturer wants to not do sectional completion or sectional handover, because it's beneficial for them as well. But there are reasons why they cannot do it. Maybe it's because of transportation, maybe because it's the time of the year, maybe it's the resources or whatever. It could be an issue due to that, and they can choose they don't want to apply that. Okay. So if they don't want to apply that, they don't want to do it, you also cannot force it like in the way, huh? Then there is another type that is talking about because the site is actually delay already, and some client they took the PT on the contractor and then say that, oh, the whole project is already, you know, like 3 months late. Since you've already finished row A, we take your sectional completion. That is the reason also why there is a clause within most contract of sectional completion, because the client can exercise that and say that, okay, since you're so late already, instead of penalizing you for another 3 months for other things, since you already have this, I took a pity on you and I take over this section first. That is also another way. So this is like a to and fro thing, you know. And then that means there will be reduction in the liquidated damage. There will be earlier usage of the facilities, earlier starting of the deferred liability. Is all beneficial to the contractors as well, especially if they're already in delay. Okay, that's another reason why you want sectional completion. And the other reason for sectional completion is earlier on, there's problem with possession and handing over. the client cannot hand over the whole site, they only hand over certain section, and therefore sectional completion will apply. Okay, so you understand all this now? So from completion of works, besides providing certificate, I think the testing, the compliance, the testing is very important. Actually, I like testing because the moment the testing is done, if we specify that a test needs to be done to check the conformance, I actually like it better because that is not so subjective. That's a very, very objective kind of compliances, isn't it? I give you test report, the test is done, I pass already, I go out, you see. So my worst fear about completion is always that very visual, very subjective kind of test, subjective kind of inspection. You know, if it depends on testing, fantastic. Let's do the testing, get the testing report out, and we're done. If it's like, oh, you know, the colors, the straightness, the aesthetic, you know, these sort of things, it's more headache to us as engineer. I don't like it. I prefer we just go for straight testing. So I don't know about you, you know, some people dislike testing because they feel like testing is, you know, it can be quite long period, you know, and yeah, and then sometimes it, you know, if you fail, you have to do it over and over again, you know, but if you do a good job, you have no reason why you are scared of, you know, doing acceptance or compliance testing or fault testings or faultiness testing, error testings and all that. Okay. Commission, meaning that the facilities can be used already. Okay, that is testing and commissioning. And then at the end, we also will be talking about payment, releasing of payment, releasing of project team, and issuance of practical completion certificate, payment certificates, penultimate payment cert, and penultimate payment done. So that will be the mark of substantial completion or practical completion. And then the full set of everything with the defect liability report, the dispute, all these will be at the end when we talk about full completion. So dispute normally we will only give after defect liability period. So nothing changed anymore. This is the final dispute drawing. Some places request for dispute drawing after the defects has been corrected, but I don't know. I think that is a bit of I mean, like you want, it's no harm if let's say the client wants that earlier, then they want it earlier for maintenance purpose and all that, or facilities maintenance or O&M. That can be done also. But if there's no reason for that, then we can leave it after until full completion as well. Yeah, but I think most client wants it earlier. But for me, I want it later is because in case there's any changes during the defect liability period, whereby, you know, we're making some blatant defects came out, you know, and you need to redo certain parts and all that, we will do it after, you know, everything is very sure, and then you hand over, the dispute so that you don't need to do 2 times dispute drawing. Because nowadays, dispute drawing is not cheap as well, you know. Dispute drawings normally need to have additional engineers to sign, you know, like let's say if I sign an dispute for you, you know, you need to pay me, you know. I mean, it's like other practicing certificate punya engineer, other IR, like PE to sign your dispute drawings. That is normally the requirement nowadays. So yeah, it can be quite expensive if you keep on asking people to, you know, like change dispute and give dispute again, you know, like 2-3 times, you know. So then the contractor may need to get the PE to sign like so many times and pay the guy like 3,000 each time, you know, and it can get really expensive, yeah. But yeah, I mean, if let's say it's an apartment or a condominium or facilities, you know, that sort of things, when you do need an O&M or a very, very strict O&M, or facilities management like condo and all that, that one dispute has to be a bit earlier. Normally, we will say request for the dispute after all the defects list has been completed. Like let's say I give you 60 days for defect. After you finish that, you hand in your dispute because I need this to be kept in my office for my team of O&M people to follow on from there. Like lift, like lift coral, like different the facilities are put this way, huh? Okay, so I don't want to call it a really certain exactly. There's nothing wrong to give defect dispute after full completion or request for the dispute right after defect has been completed. During the defect liability period or during the defect liability period, you ask for a dispute is also fine. Is also fine. Okay. But I would say most people will request after during that defect liability period when the practical completion is done already. Because they're pretty sure there is not going to be any very fundamental elemental changes like beam change, column change, not like that. When you have already got practical completion, it probably means everything is pretty much set, you see. It's just that latent defect may show up only, but most of the time it shouldn't be showing up. I mean, there shouldn't be any. Huh? Okay, right. So when you have a start date, end date, and then when you cannot meet that end date, what happens? Okay, then this is the time of we talk about delays. Okay, project delays. This section here, we talk about what is delayed, and you can take a read through. I can explain a bit more on this. It's a very interesting topic that we can talk about. I don't mind spending more time with you on this actually, but I think we will leave it until next week because it's almost 4 o'clock already. I still have some more slides to go through with you. So I think delay itself as an element itself, that is the biggest issue that all of us have, or most engineers have, or most QSs will have, is to understand the delay and to award that delay. The entitlement of delay is always an issue. And we need to understand these 4 elements. When a project is not fulfilled, when it's not delivered as per the completion date, anything after that is considered as delay. Okay? Understand? But what exactly is delay? There are many categories here. I mean, I won't say there are many categories, sorry. The definition of delay can be described from these 4 categories: critical, non-critical, excusable, non-excusable, compensable, non-compensable, concurrent, non-concurrent. Critical, non-critical, it means that if the particular activity is on the critical path, then it will definitely affect the overall project. So you need to be certain that that particular project activities is actually on the critical path. So if you want to give award extension of time, it usually has to be a critical activity. If it's not a critical activity, it's a non-critical activity, and then it is proven that even though up to, and especially if it does have a free float, I'm not sure how much you understand about free float. Free float is about float time that is available, not to affect the next activity. Then if there is free float, and if you don't go over the free float, that means that this particular activity, even if it's delayed, you don't actually affect the entire project. So not every activity is entitled for a EOT, extension of time. Okay, concurrent, non-concurrent is if contractor loves to apply for every activity punya delay, but there are some activities that are concurrent, meaning that the delay actually happens at the same time. Okay, delay A and delay B, it happens at the same time. There's 2 elements here. One is the delay itself happens at the same time. Then do you give 1 plus 1, or do you give only 1 as in parallel? This is a question that you have to answer. There's another type of concurrency, means that activities are concurrent. Means that let's say the activity for drainage work ongoing together with the fencing work, for example. And both, because of whether both activities are delayed, are you going to give 1 plus 1? the contractor will apply, like they'll apply that is because this is because of weather, because of this, it will delay the drainage for 6 days, and then it will delay the fencing for 6 days, and altogether I will apply for 12 days, So you need to watch out for that, okay? And yeah, so you need to catch that when you're awarding, when you're discussing whether you want to give the EOT or not. I'm assuming you know what is EOT, okay? Because I haven't actually explained EOT. I'm actually saying that we have a delay now. That is a lag in the schedule. When there's a lag in the schedule, we have a delay. Delays are caused by many reasons. And this is the part that you need to study that particular element of delay first. Okay, whether it is on the critical path, it's not on the critical path, whether it's concurrent, non-concurrent, whether the activities are concurrent, whether the delays are concurrent. And you will need to also know whether the delay are excusable or non-excusable. Okay, excusable delays are acts of God, floods, fire, weather, intervention from other agencies, maybe lack of actions by other agencies, like for example, call for inspection. This guy said cannot, that guy said cannot, those are some very excusable. These are excusable, meaning that it can be allowed. This kind of delay is allowed, And non-excusable, obviously, is lack of performance from, like you said, oh, my subcontractor cannot do the work, my supplier cannot deliver my thing, That is your problem. Those are non-excusable delay. I'll be very straight with the contractor also. Sometimes, there's this one contractor asked me, I cannot buy insurance, the insurance, no one wants to buy no one wants to sell me insurance. I said that is not an excusable delay. So sorry, because that is your problem. That is not the client's problem. It's not because the client has such a bad reputation or the project itself is such a high risk, nobody wants to sell you insurance, you see. If that one is the problem, like this is a high risk project that you're doing nuclear plant, for example, or this is a project of going to Mars, like Elon Musk trying to go to bring everybody to Mars and stay, this is a high risk project, and no insurance company wants to sell you insurance, then okay, this is considered as excusable. But if it's just a normal, like, because because the project has some delay issues previously, track record, because of the project itself is what I mean is that there's some elements itself within the project that the insurance company don't have that kind of service, or they don't want to do this kind of they don't want to do this kind of insurance for this type of project, then it can be, or within the policies of the insurance itself, like some companies don't want to insure this type of job, it's their own reason. But that is not excusable because there are still many other companies out there. This is not the one and only insurance company available in the whole Malaysia, you see. So we cannot use that as the excusable delay. So it has to be excusable, non-excusable is, we can set it allowed or not allowed, and we can put it simply like that. But this is also attached with another element called compensable and non-compensable. When there is a when it's a compensable, it means that you are entitled for extension or addition compensation. Some excusable delay is excusable, but they are not compensable. You need to realize that. You may be given extension of time, but you are not given additional compensation. All right. Some is actually non-excusable, non-excusable, definitely non-compensable, but some excusable can be compensable and non-compensable. Okay, compensable means that although an excusable delay may have occurred, the contractor is not entitled to added compensation. That one is non-compensable. So whether a delay or not a delay is compensable is primarily written already in the contract. So excusable and compensable, they are all written down in the contract. So if you see that your contract, there are a list of compensable and also list of excusable delays. And you need to take note of those things. If you don't take note, like VO, for example, is considered as the excusable and compensable. Compensable means that it can be given extension of time. It also can be paid additional. So VO is definitely the one of additional work and order. It's definitely one of the best excuse for extension of time and also a compensation. So they are considered as compensable, excusable, and compensable. So they are compensable, excusable, compensable, excusable, non-compensable, non-compensable, non-excusable. These are usually the link. Okay. So concurrent and critical is another buddy lah. So these four elements here, they work together for you to define your project. Whether the delay is actually allowed to be paid and allowed for extra time. So when there is a delay, the most natural reaction will be to catch up. Come on, let's go and do it, run faster. It's just like I'm telling you that you're late for class. So when I say start class at 1:15, and some people come, and at 1:15 I come and they're half of the class not here. So I type in a message, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. So that is the most natural reaction that most people will have. So with project, with delivery, with products, delivery time, you normally will get people to hurry up. Okay. So that you can quickly match the schedule date. No matter what, when delay does happen, it can happen earlier on in the project, and you suspect that it may actually delay the overall project. That is a time that we need to look into that delay factor already. So every delay factor, you need to study that. When the site are in delay, when there is a schedule lag in every activity, in any of the activity, is the time to alert yourself that something is not right here. So you need to check every one of the delay based on that four elements that I was talking about. The non-excusable, critical, non-critical, compensable, and also concurrent. Check into that first. Check what are the reasons for delay. And there are many reasons for delay, and these are the kind of reasons that you can get in all sorts of literature. I already compiled one for you. So that's why when students say, I want to do research project on what causes delay in rural project, what causes delay in highway project, what causes delay, what are the cause and effect of delay, I tell them no need to do a lot of delay, a lot of elements of delay, what caused delay and all that is already been done like 10,000 times. You do also no use on that. So here I already give you, with all this bracket here, I literally tell you these are actually study done by all sorts of different people. Straight away here, I can give you 20 over project that has been done about delay and elements of delays, and all these are papers, that I already compiled one paper for you into who causes delay, what are the reasons for delay and all that. These are all literature studied by, 20 years before until now, what people talk about in construction delays, okay? So don't need to talk about causes of delay. You flick any online, you go to any journals, unavoidably there will be some article for you there to look at that as well. So no need client related, contractors related, and these are pages of this, So feel free to take a look. There's about 25, and I think I haven't updated this also. There was probably a lot more as well. Yeah, client related, contractor related, designer related, and others caused by others as well, such as weather, natural disaster, and all that. That one is also another element. COVID, pandemic, that is another element completely. But with pandemic kind of research, it's worth looking at definitely because something new. It's something that actually is a turning point for the industry to be aware of natural disaster and natural elements on delays and also time and schedule and all that. So it's worth studying because of the pandemic, but it may not be, it does not go, it will be very boring to do the same thing again from the perspective of a general construction or a general manufacturing industry or a general oil and gas or whatever. But I'm not sure about oil and gas. Oil and gas something, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of research that's been done on that as well. But you can take a look. If you are doing oil and gas, that may be something that you want to do. But yeah, but construction is already old stories, huh? And certain part of materials, mechanical and all that, that may be another stories. But you need to find a niche when it comes to research project. See, so here we've got like almost I think 10 or 15 pages on what can cause the delay. Okay, and of course I can write another paper that is the same length on impact of delay. So impact of delay is pretty much quite obvious: time, cost, quality, operation issues, defect issue, contractual issues, performance issues, especially performance issue, because too long delay can cause later on performance problem. And again, like I said, if we go from the COVID perspective or pandemic perspective, or even just the natural disaster perspective, I think it will be very interesting to take a look at how people can recover, like contractual element can recover, or is there any contractual element used to there, that can be adopted to help recovery of the project after pandemic, or during the pandemic now, after the pandemic, when we want to get back and bring back the schedule, what are the effects, what are the causes and effects of delays because of the pandemic, very specifically because of the pandemic. But we want to study that because we want to see if there's anything we can do next time a disaster happens. You see, so we want to create some form of framework for that, for disaster. Basically, you see, not only pandemic, you have the Turkey earthquake, and then you have the Ukraine war, all these things are considered as disaster or natural disaster or man-made disaster, we call it. But the world has more and more of these sort of things now, and I think construction project will definitely be under the impact. In the old days, the biggest worry that we have is probably weather and flooding, you see, but now there's a lot more to natural disaster, and the recovery of the city or recovery of construction work, recovery of the economy or recovery of the sectors is something that can be studied. I think that would be very interesting. Okay, right. So then contractually delays, you need to look into the contract itself. Okay, so the contract itself will state down what are the kind of delays that is excusable, compensable. So take note of the clauses that is dealing with those. Yeah. So whichever industry you are in, whichever form of contract that you're looking at, even you're in China, I'm sure there's a clause that says in your industry, what are the things that are compensable, what are the things that are excusable. So these are the things you need to draw out for your assignments later. So when you have the delay, the first reaction, like I said, is to gumpo all your management effort, gumpo all your technical know-how, and you want to catch up. That will be the first reaction. Okay. The second reaction, the immediate secondary reaction that you will have is to apply for extension of time. So extension of time is not something that we will think of immediately, because again, psychologically, we don't want to face with these sort of issues. You would think about thinking more resources, manpower, you will be thinking about putting in more machines or bringing in another team of people to catch up, because that is your muscles reflex, and also that is what your brain can set as well. Because when you think about extension and applying for extension of time, it actually has that impact of you admitting that there is something that you cannot do, meaning that somehow there will be a project delay. It is something very negative. And when we have something very negative in front of us, what is our reaction? Huh? When I scare you and you walk into a room and I go boo, 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 I give you a ghost face. Huh? You are scared. Normally we will close our eyes, correct or not? Our immediate reaction will be to run away from it, and to say that, you scream and then you turn your head away, you shrink away. See, all your bodily reaction is to run away from it. Correct or not? Yeah. Same thing with delay. Most of the reaction will be we don't even want to look at it. Correct or not? Yeah. extension of time, the word EOT, extension of time, you don't want to even look at it. It means something scary. It means that my project will be delayed. It means that I'll be having problems later. So if it's not burning your butt yet, you probably don't want to look at it. And that is very dangerous. Why? Because most contracts do state that if the delay events happen within 7 days, if you think that it will cause delay in your overall project or in your activity, you must apply for it first. You must acknowledge or you must reserve the right to apply for extension of time for it first. You must tell that a delay event happened and you want to apply for extension. You must acknowledge that first. And that is the most difficult part. And that is the part that most contractor or most service provider or most builder, they will ignore. Because like I said, your first reaction is to run away from it. I don't want to think about it, It's a very scary thing. Yeah. So it takes your logical reasoning brain part to acknowledge that, look, I have a delay and I need to apply for extension of time. So the thing is, the rule here is contractor needs to apply, or not to say apply, you need to write in to inform about the delay within about 7 days, depending on what is written on the contract itself. So it means that if you have if your boat sink, the ship sink somewhere in the middle of South China Sea, and then your supply items has problems or have issues or whatever, you need to inform. When that happens, you need to inform. You need to read the contract carefully. If there is an issue like force majeure or like for example, the ship sinking is probably force majeure, So these are force majeure is acts of God, something that you cannot control. So if that happens, you need to apply. You need to acknowledge. You need to tell the client that first reaction is no, okay, this happened. I need to inform the client ASAP on there is a potential chance that the goods will be delayed, or the material will be delayed, or the item will be delayed, or my production line will be stopped, for some reason. So you need to inform first. And that once you inform, then you need to start to prepare all the necessary documentation to apply for extension of time. You don't have to apply immediately, but you need to express. You need to express your you need to express that there is the potential for you to have delays. Yeah. So it's like informing the client first. Okay. So once you've already informed the client, of course, you have to see whether the contract, that reason is actually excusable, not excusable. If let's say it's your own manpower problem, that one you don't write to the client and say, I reserve my right for application of extension of time. You don't do that because it's your own problem, Even you say that you cannot find workers or workmen, there is no enough of workmen and all that, Unless you can really say that it's a national issue, okay? If just your own problem, or you cannot find a workman, or in a very specific area you cannot find a workman, normally that is not excusable. But if it's a national issue like MCO, like no Indonesian worker, no Pakistani worker, no Indian workers, no nothing, so then that no Chinese worker or whatever, that you can apply, you can apply based on that reason, and then you need to gather all the documentation about foreign labors, and that is why when contractor asks me, there's problem with labor, can I say that this is a rule for extension of time? I say yes, because this is a national issue. You can put it under force majeure because of MCO, okay? Because it's a government order, government control. But it's very difficult to prove, because why? We all know that yes, it's everywhere in the newspaper. The borders are closed, but you need documents. You need documents to say that you actually try to engage these workers, and then why you cannot get local workers, why people here are not working, and then why international you cannot import any workers. So the process of it is difficult. Yeah. So it's not to say that you can't. It's just that the process is so difficult that it will put people off. See? So if we're really strict about it, you need all the documentation, you need all the paperwork, you need to say that you've already sent in 10 times to the labor department and I want to get foreign labor, I want to get 10, 20 Pakistani workers, but I can't, they rejected me 20 times, or 10 times or 5 times or 2 times, and this is the proof of the rejection. Then you can use it, as an excuse. So it's like, you cannot take a newspaper and cut it and say that the government say that we're not getting foreign laborers and therefore I need to apply for extension of time, you see. So that's why some contractors don't understand. They don't understand. Yeah. But obviously it's the matter of how the approach that you go about in applying for that extension of time. Some may look like a non-excusable, non-compensable or excusable, non-compensable, but it's the approach that you are going through, it's the angle that you're writing that makes a difference, you see, whether it can be called an EO, that you can claim for that as an EOT. So once you have got the reason, you study the delay, and you must make a claim, meaning that first you need to tell them that I have a problem. Then within about 30 days or so, depending on the contract as well, different contract will have different kind of requirement, or even if it's not written, then you need to check with the particular agency or the company, the client agency, what they want to see when you apply for extension of time. You need to follow their procedures and follow their format, and then put in the right documents, send in for extension of time. And then the other end, which I think people like Jessica and Eka as they will face, is sometimes the agency themselves, they don't know how to assess, and then they delay, meaning that contractor already applied for extension of time, you approve, you don't give an answer. That is another reason for a procedural wrong again from the agency part. So supposedly you need to assess whether they are allowed or not. Okay? You cannot delay them. You cannot say that wait until the end of the project. You belum delay lagi. So we wait until the end of the project. Satu kali kita kira. Cannot do that one, Supposed to be procedures wise, you need to give the contractor an answer that they are allowed that or not, and how many days are awarded to them. But later on, whether it's 15 plus 15 plus 15 or 10 plus 5 plus 20 or whatever, is a plus or a concurrent, we can decide later. Okay, because this may be happening first, and then at the same time, half a month later, something else happened, but you've already given that 15 days, and then the other half a month is that 15 days, and something else happened again. Are you going to give like plus, or can you give like overlapping? So the overall contract date change can only be done at the end of the at the very end. But each extension of time must be each extension of time application should be assessed immediately it has been submitted. Okay. Right. So after the review, so you will give law or not give law. Let's say if it's not give and the project is into the delay, it's already in the final delay. During the project period, there is a law that most government agency will how do I say? No. During the project period, normally you cannot charge anything for delay yet. It has to be, let's say today, let's say next year, 24th of March. And the next payment claim is, let's say, 31st of March. Okay? If whether the EOT is given or not, normally that delay period of 25th to 31st, that delay period will be charged LAD first. So they will take the money out first and not pay you because you're already in delay. And when you finish the whole project and the extension of time is being calculated fully about the actual extension, then the money will be returned if, let's say, EOT is granted. So whatever EOT is not granted, LAD will be applied. LAD is one of if you look at any contract act, there must be an element of remedy. And LAD is one type of remedy. So it can be a remedy through performance, it can be a remedy through money, and this money one is called liquidated and ascertained damage. So they convert whatever losses that is going to be made because the facilities or the material or the product not being delivered, and charge according to the money value of that losses. So LAD is part of remedial, means like something that the client can do to help themselves if their service provider or if their builders are late, you see. And or their contractors are late in delivering their product or delivering their facilities or delivering their goods and services. So again, this is their right, this is their but the actual administrating, you see the role of engineers here, you must study the delay. You must study the reason for EOT. You must study what is the days or what are the period that is given for the EOT. Then you must study what are the LAD and when to charge LAD. So these are all jobs of engineers, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, QS are here to assist, to assist the engineers in carrying out this particular part of the work, so they are the one that come up with the EOT documents and access the documents and all that. But along the way, the work has to be done by the people on site or the people in the job, that is the engineer. Yeah, so QS will be the one to help to administer in terms of paperwork, how much to charge, how much to pay, and how much to give back and all that. These are later stage. Yeah, so I think we will stop here for today. Okay, I think it's been quite a long day already, about 4.5 hours already. And these are some forms that I have with me. So I just simply put down, these are construction contract, and you don't really have to, I mean, like if you want, you can take a look, but there's some explanation on the clauses and all that. So I hope to see something like this being done during your assignment as well later on. Okay, and this part is the clauses that are related to time, right? In case I miss out on anything, I will actually supplement again next week, especially if there are areas that I think I forgot to tell you, and all that. So yeah, I will talk about it. And if you have any issues, we still can do some discussion now. Yeah, I'm very free to do discussion with you. But I think let me go toilet first. I need to go in here for like whole afternoon. I'm sure some of you are also wanting to run to the toilet as well. So yeah, we have a 5 minutes toilet break, and then we will come back and discuss anything that you want to discuss and any questions that you want to ask and all that. Okay. Any questions, anyone? Nikman, I see a question here. Okay, what do you think if the project is ahead of schedule? It's not about. It is not about purposely applying for EOT. When there is a delay event, you have to reserve your right to apply for EOT, and you have to apply for it if you think that it is necessary. So there is no such thing as to make it look good on paper, because it is your contractual right to apply for EOT. And it is restated very clearly in most contracts that if there is a reason, if a delay event happens, even though you're ahead of time, your delay, there is an event, for example, extensive rainfall, inclement weather, flooding, let's say something like that happened, or delay in material, you need to write in first and tell them that you reserve the right. This delay event happened occurring from what date to what date, and you reserve the right to apply for EOT later on. But the application of EOT, preferably you put it in, just put it in. It's not to say make it look good on paper. It is your responsibilities to do this. And if you do have later run, or how would you know? The project can be months, you see. It only takes 2 or 3 months for the COVID to spread to the rest of the world, you see. So how would you know that you don't need it, you see? And the contractors, engineers, the client engineers also don't say something stupid like, hey, you already ahead of time, then no need to apply. Apply for what? Don't say that, because that will make you look very silly, okay? Especially people who are like for example, working as the client side. If you say that, then it makes you look very unprofessional. If they apply, according to the contract, they should apply. They should. First is not apply. First is to inform about the delay event. Inform what delay event happened already. It means that you've already reserved the right to claim. But whether you claim or not later, you still have some time to think about it. Like let's say about 14 days later. Within a month or so, you normally should apply already, if you really want. But the worst thing is with contractor is they don't apply. They don't write in, they don't apply to acknowledge they don't write in first to acknowledge the delay event. And then at the end of the project, whole stretch, they put in like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 extension of time. That is also very unprofessional, because you shouldn't do that. And if the client side wants to place game with you, they will say that according to the contract, you have to inform us about the delay event happening within about 7 days. If it's written there 7 days, you have to write in within 7 days that, okay, last Saturday there was a big flood in Kuching, okay? So your project cannot go on. You write by today. If you don't write, that means you already give up that right to apply for that day punya extension. So then you write in first. Like yesterday, you write in and said that that delay happened. This delay happened from what time to what time, what day to what day, what are the reasons, what are the prove what are the reasons, for example, for this delay. Then after that, what would it impact? It will impact my concrete pouring, it will delay my which activity, okay? You write in first. Then after that, within about 14 days, within the same month, normally, we will say 30 days or so, you need to apply. If you think that there's a reason you should apply for that 1 day of extension, you just apply. If you don't want to apply, if you think that you're already way ahead, you're so confident, then okay, you don't apply. But later, let's say way later, at the end of the project, that you actually face like a 7 days delay or 14 days delay or 1 month delay, and you're being charged the LAD. So all this earlier application or earlier information about the delay, it is going to build up your case for application of EOT later. But if, let's say, like I said, the client's engineer wants to play game with you, they can say that you didn't inform us about the EOT, the delay. You also didn't apply for EOT within the 30 days. So then now you have no right to apply. And then you nangis saja lah. Try lah. That is the issue that I see a lot of contractor, they don't do that. And a lot of clients, like I say, their main problem, the main issue is they don't assess until the very end. Both are wrong. Both are not good. Why? Because when the delay happens, it can be like, let's say, March now. But when you apply, it's 12 months later. Your side, contractor side, wants to go and look for proof. You already don't remember. You ask people on the side, they say, ayo, that day, who can remember? I don't even remember what I eat yesterday. You want to ask me what happened, on the 31st of May or 10th of June, what happened? You forgot. The client side also, when you put in the extension of time, they also forget what happened that day. So both of you kawan kabut lah. Or not, what happened or not? Where is the proof? Where is the record? Nothing. It makes the extension of time process very difficult for both the client and both the client and the builder. Why not both of you do that? Assess the extension of time. You use it or not later is another story. Don't use lah. Use, then you will be happy. You got keep the proof. And the client side, you already approved this many type of extension of time. The only job that you need to do at the end of it is to confirm that do you give the total of all the extension of time, or do you give some parallel, concurrent, and then give total of how much. It's the only thing you need to do at the end. So why do you want to go and check on extension? I've seen, don't understand. I don't understand. Somebody enlighten me. I mean, I cannot run project like that. It really makes me crazy. You see, I mean, I don't know, when it happens, when contractor apply, that's like confirm how many days per day, give them the EOT, then whether it's going to be directly add on, like I said, that one is at the end of it, you see the whole scenario. What is the actual impact that actually gives the total period? Because before the project ends, all this extension of time is actually just for paperwork purpose only. You may not need it, but it is important to have it. When you need it, then you will cry if you don't have it. Yeah. Understand or not, Niman? When the issues is written in the site, yes, Shasha. When it's there, it's written, let's say, in the site record that there is heavy rainfall or there was a delay in something, some event. I would say that site daily record can be a proof, can be an evidence, but it is more secondary. If you're treating it as a if you're treating site daily record as that the contractor has already informed, then not very good. Okay? Because it's written in the contract that you're supposed to write in to inform. This can be, like, let's say both sides agree on site, both sign on the delay event. So you still can treat it as the informing of the delay event. But this is definitely not the application for EOT. You understand? Because there's two steps here. Step one is to inform about the delay event. So if you write in very strictly, you're supposed to write in. But if you want to use site daily record as the evidence for informing, then you can. But both sides need to sign. Yeah? It cannot be the contractor sign, say that this delay event happened, and then the client side or the SO side or the superintending officer side or the engineer side, nobody bother to sign on it. And that is not very good. Okay? If they don't sign on it, you better write in. If both sign on it, yes, you can leave it as it is. What do you mean by the evidence forward? Evidence forward, you mean like they actually write it there as the evidence of the days of delay, or you mean like use it as a record about the delay event happening, right?
I mean was sometimes the contractor like cincai at the first place because they thought that, oh, we can finish this one, but suddenly things happen in the end, and those things that they don't claim in the first place is already written in the site diary. Then when they want to apply for the EOT, then they got this evidence. Can they use it although the period is long time ago already?
You need to look at your contract. If they say that you must apply for EOT within 30 days of the delay event happening, then they are not allowed to apply anymore.
Okay. This
That's
usually
the
become the issue, the argument lah. Since it is the contractor fault to not inform earlier that they want to apply for the EOT at the first place. Then they need some more time. We don't know what happened at site. Suddenly they need more time, and they need to apply for the EOT.
This one, the written in a site daily record, if signed by both parties, it can be the evidence for future application, okay, of EOT. Definitely, it is allowed. But if you follow the contract strictly, if it is written there that there is an application period, it's just like I'm trying to find a example that is more easily to understand. Okay, let's say you know, like how a lot of sellers, they like to sell things on Facebook and Instagram and all that, and then they'll say that if you click a like, then you can apply to buy this product for how many dollars, you know, like cheaper lah, 50% off, you know, within 30 days. Yeah, you understand? This you guys see this concept? So you go and click like lah, kan? You go and click like, and then after that you forgot to buy. So 35 days later, you say, yeah, you know, I want to buy, but it's obviously stated there that is you can only buy within the 30 days lah. Or they said that was stock last lah, so it's up to the seller lah. If you still there, okay lah, you click like lah, I give it to you lah, never mind lah, it's not a long delay, but if let's say you want to buy like, you know, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months later, then they say no, then you can't do anything lah, kan? So same lah. You click like, it's like you inform lah, I want to express my interest to buy ma. I express first, I inform about my delay event. That is the first step that you have to do. And the written in the site daily it can have the same effect like the contractor write in and say that the delay event happens. So these two can be treated equally. You found writing in a site daily and contractor writing to you and say that I have this delay event. The effect is sama. Huh? So they can be used. Okay? But EOT, it must come in the application. The prelude is you inform, then you apply. So if you don't inform, you cannot apply. This relationship, you understand, Shasha? Huh?
Yeah, yeah.
You must inform first, then you apply. It's like you click like first, then you baru dapat buy ma. So the same thing. But there is a period of time. Some contract have, some contract don't have. But if your contract don't have, and they apply at the end of, say, at the end of the contract period, and they have a delay, they want to apply. If your contract never state that they must apply within the delay event happening, 30 days or 14 days within the delay happening, then they cannot apply anymore. I mean, so if the contract is not stated that way, then they still can apply anytime. But if the contract is stated there very clearly that they can only apply 14 days, or the period allowed for them to apply for EOT is after they inform 30 days, then it's up to you. If you want to give, you give. If you don't want to give, you have to write out to give. Yeah. So the site daily thing is equivalent to a letter from contractor to inform that the delay event happening. It is not an EOT application. You must get this right, huh? If you don't understand, you can talk to me. We can go on discussing. You digest first, so, like I said, like your situation, they want to apply, but it's already, if your contract do state that there is a period of time, then if let's say you didn't pass that period very long, you want to give, I think I'm also okay with that normally, huh? But if let's say it's already happened in March and they apply in December, then I have every right. You have every right. No, don't give, because it's very difficult for you to assess already. It's 9 months before, you to gather evidence and all that is not easy. Just because they write down the delay event happening in the site daily record, you can use that as one of the calculation references, but it is not an evidence. It's not an evidence of how many days of delay, and you need a lot of other evidence as well, depending on the type of delay. Okay. So the answer is, this site daily record and the letter informing on the delay event is the same effect, but it must happen first before you apply for an official extension of time. And then you must check whether there is any validity period of application. It's just like you click like from like, 30 days from the like, you can buy my product for 50% off. After that, you cannot anymore. It will go back to the original price. So again, if it's written like that, it is clear an expression to the other side that this is what you should do, but they didn't do it. You can tell them that if you give it to them, it's goodwill on your part. If you give it to them to apply, it's goodwill on your part. If they don't, if they apply and you don't give, not say don't give, you don't allow them to apply even, that is following the contract. But you need to know what is in the contract. Okay? This is talking about right to apply, not to say give or not give EOT, right to apply. You can even not give them the right to apply if they have gone over the period of validity of application. Is there any solution, or what is the best way to handle the service providers that request so many EOT? Are they applying the EOT immediately after the problem happening? Like almost immediately after the happening?
Not really. After the EOT, one EOT finish, they request again.
As in, but the EOT happened because the EOT they submit is based on one event, correct or not? Like let's say something happened this month, they apply, and then something happened again next month, they apply again. Is it like that? Or on the same event, they give many EOT, they send in many EOT applications?
The first case, doctor.
So let's say this month there's something happened, they are very professional, they apply for EOT lah kan. So you already access the EOT, and then maybe you belum habis access lagi, something happened again, they apply again. Correct or not? I need to know what kind of request so many EOT, because it is their right, to apply for EOT.
It's no probable cause.
After one EOT finish, then they apply again another EOT.
But for another event lah kan.
Yes, correct.
So there's no way ba. That is their they have to do that professionally, they have to do that. So your only solution is you access the EOT quickly lah. Finish access, throw it back to them. Finish access, throw it back to them. You don't wait for too long to apply. You don't wait for too long to that one lah, to access lah. Kalau you let it sit there, and then suddenly you see like 20 EOT sitting there, then you want to access it, or then you really had it lah. So when they apply, you straight away access lor. That's the thing that I mean, like you must assess all the clients. Don't leave the EOT application until the end of the project and you satu kali goes assess. That is not a smart way to do it, because you already forgot what happened, and your site people may not be able to confirm on what happened as well, because they may claim like this, but then your site don't have. They have evidence, but you don't have evidence. Your site no one to verify the evidence because it's too long already. So don't leave EOT outstanding for too long. But if you don't want them to apply, like sikit-sikit apply EOT, then I guess your contract has to be written very tight, no? Okay, so I'm teaching you this. Your contract, for example, your service provider contract, you must write there what exactly they can apply for. So anything out of that, they cannot apply. That is one way to constrain them. Then another thing is, give them deadline. If let's say 7 days, not only to inform and apply. So you make it a bit harder for them to quickly always apply, suka-suka hati apply. When they have a very short period of time, and they went over that short period of time, then they you actually put them off applying. That is not a good way to do it. But then you as the client, you can write the contract. If they agree to the contract, means that they also know what is in the contract, and that's how they should practice. So one way is you write down the reason, very clear reason, the only reason that they can apply EOT for, you give them that list. Number two is you make the procedure shorter, like procedural time shorter. So normally most contract will say if delay event, you must inform of the event 14 days after the event happening, or 7 days after the event happening. Normally it's 7 days. And then application of EOT must be done within 30 days of the event happening. Okay? So then they have plenty of time to sit down there and think about how to write, how to apply, and all that. But if you make it like upon the delay event happening, 7 days to inform and apply for EOT, then they only have 7 days, so they may not be in time to apply. Faham tak? Nazifa, you understand what I'm trying to say? You can play with the contract so that they don't put in so many requests. There's only 2 ways to draft the contract. Okay, and then how about interim EOT? Due to pending decision by client, there's no clause for interim EOT. No, this is what I've been talking about. You have to assess. You have to assess every EOT that comes in. There's no such thing as interim EOT. Wherever that you have interim EOT, is because you don't assess EOT until the very end of the project. So then that means you think, oh, there's a lot of interim EOT. Actually, no. The moment they apply, you have to already assess and give them an answer. Give or not give, how many days. And then get rid of that already. And then next EOT comes in, assess. And then towards the end, whereby you already confirm that you have already given so much EOT, the last bit is before you decide whether the contract period can be extended or not, is to look back at all the EOT that has been granted, and are you going to give them a plus. You plus all the EOT together to give them a period, 60 days or 80 days, or are you going to look at some of the EOT and say if there's some overlapping or some concurrent, then you reduce on the doctor that is going to be given to them. That's all. Yeah. Client side cannot be pending lah. I mean, like, why can't they be professional about it? Just give the answer, yes or no. Okay. Special event EOT request. What do you mean by special event? All the event is written down there in the clauses in every standard form of contract. What event can request EOT? But there are, like I say, loophole in a lot of these events. So you may not be, if let's say some event is you don't have to put it directly saying that, okay, let's say, for example, inclement weather. There is no inclement weather claim, for example, that they don't allow inclement weather. Okay. But you could ask for force majeure due to unexpected flooding or tide or whatever. Then, I mean, it is rainfall, but we can go at it from another direction that is within the list, you see. It's how you play around with it, actually, not so much on take it as the book value, you see. If inclement weather is, some contract will slowly eliminate inclement weather. I've been told many times already. Okay, I think it's already in, like, JKR's been eliminated inclement weather, so they're not allowed to have inclement weather as an excuse for EOT request. Maybe you guys can elaborate your question a little bit more, because when I read the question, that is how I understand it. Yeah. There's no clauses for interim EOT because you are expected to clean up all the EOT as they have been as they have been put in. Every EOT should be treated as it is. It's only in the end whereby you want to assess the final decision on the amount of date given. Then some of these are overlapping. Then this is the time that you can say that but you can put it in your EOT granting statement very clearly. Granting this amount of days does not constitute the exact extension of the whole contract. You have to be very clear about that. Otherwise, most contractor will say that you give one EOT 1 15 days, EOT 2 15 days, EOT 3 15 days, they will add it up. Plus. Okay? So you must be very clearly right there that each EOT granted is based on the event alone, and it shall not be considered as the whole extension for the contract period as of now. Yeah. As of this delay event. It takes a bit of changes in mentality and also approach for most organizations to treat EOT as going through that proper system. And that's why it's also worth researching for many of us that, two areas that are very much worth researching for us is to assess EOT, how to assess EOT. And because I think a lot of you, I'm surprised nobody asked me like the assessment of EOT, you see. And a lot of assessment of EOT is actually very much at the moment, I know, is pretty much based on the people handling it, and not so much on, there may be some evidences, but many times it's about procedures and not so much on the technical, how to study the EOT and then how to grant the actual days. That granting of the actual days is something that contractors don't know how to do and don't know how to apply for. And then the client side don't know how to assess. Because they always have issues trying to assess, like, should I give 15? They apply for 15. Should I give 10? Should I give 12? Sometimes some people actually tell me something as crazy as this. Because they apply for 15, they think that they can give 15, but never mind, I want to give the discount, so I give 12 only. Something like that. So they don't know how to actually assess the actual delay event carefully. And of course, the procedures for assessing EOT, like when you receive it, because you see, contract is very funny one. They will tell the contractor you must apply within certain days of the delay event happening. But they never say that the SO or the client, the SO should assess and the client should approve within how many days. That is something that a backdoor that most contracts leave for the client to run away. But because they leave this backdoor unlocked, they are creating problems of piling up EOT. And in the end, you do not know how much to give because many of these events has already lapsed for many months and you don't even remember what happened. Or there is no record of what happened. If everything is recorded on video, then we know we can play back and rewatch. But unfortunately, no site is like 24 hours, complete camera, security camera ready to record everything that happens on the site, you see. So then it becomes very much based on people's memory and people's perception. So I don't know, later on, maybe with Beam and with also AI and all that, it may be a bit easier, but I think at the moment it's still very manual, very human-based assessments. So I think that is something that I think is something worth studying in that sense as well, yeah. Something that I think the industry can move towards too, is something that is not to say interesting, it's actually necessary. We have been in the rut for too long already, as in things are happening, things are improving, and nobody wants to do anything about it. Nobody wants to take the lead to move forward. And it becomes something that is raw balling, keep on raw balling, you see. It's just like flooding. But it is like a red ball, like how the benang, you're all twisted, locked up already. You don't know where's the beginning, where's the end, and how to solve the problem. And I think that the issues that is happening in very large organizations like JKR, I'm not surprised actually. Yeah. As project gets bigger and bigger, as things get more and more complicated, a lot more things will happen, you know. And these assessments of EOT, if you don't do it timely, in a timely manner, like I said, the reason why the contract didn't write a specific time for the client to for the client side or the SO side to assess and the client side to decide, it's because they want to leave a back door for themselves, you see. And the problem is when you start to leave a back door, you leave a lot of things unsettled. Then when you want to go back to settle it, it becomes very difficult. You don't know where to start, you don't know where to end. At the end of the day, you just don't give. And then when you don't give or you give too much, it becomes an issue also. You guys understand what I'm trying to say here? That is
Yeah, Doctor. Actually, in regards of this EOT, right? Of course, there's a lot of issue, but to say that sometimes if like client like delaying the approval of EOT, that is also a fact. But maybe due to human limitation as well. By saying that, what I meant is because in JKR, my experience in JKR, sometimes one officer will take like 10 to 20 project at once. So sometimes we cannot, assess all the EOTs in time, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
of course, like you said, it is the best thing to do is, to assess the EOT as soon as possible. Just reply whether we can give to the contractor or not. Like clear cut, just settle it as soon as possible. That is the best way. If not, we will also like have issues with delay project, and then this the people, those who are not involved in construction, they don't understand, then they will blame, they will say, oh, the JKR not doing their job, that's why that's why this project is delayed, things like that. Because EOT is also one of the mitigation measure for JKR to deal with this sick project, especially after MCO.
Plenty of issues with this I think, like I say, definitely it's I definitely agree with you. It's a human issue because I mean, like on the manpower one, I cannot comment home because it's not within I'm not having the authority to comment. It's just like I'm also telling you that. I mean, we can also tell you that we are overworked with this, or unfortunately, that is not something that we outsiders can deal with, yeah. The main thing is the procedures is there, So the bad part about not dealing with it earlier on, like I said, because it's already a very human based sort of assessments, it can get worse if it's not being dealt with earlier. The only thing that I can think of is in terms of human thing is to get your site people, especially people who are in charge of site, which also they will tell you, I'm sure they will tell you that, my whole day I'm running up and down the site. Where got I sit down and got time to do paperwork, correct or not?
Yes, correct. 100% agree.
Yeah. So you are waiting for their information sometimes, or you're waiting for them to do some ground assessments before you can do the paperwork here, correct or not? And then they can't give it to you, so you also delay. And then you also in charge of 20 projects and 10 projects at the same time. And today this one call you settle this, and then before you know it, end of the week is already there, and 1 month later you still haven't accessed it, you see. So I think maybe if we say this like this, it's almost like a chicken and egg situation now. Maybe we can set it as the law first, like a regulation in a contract that if JKR or if any client side should, give at least like what they're asking contractor to do. If the delay event happens, you give like an info, you inform first. But at least here, if you can give, you can just say, effective also, like, it's better to say that I give and give how many days. Because if you say I give first and then later on give another letter for how many days, that is also like double work, you know. If possible, just say give, but give how many days. But I think you must very importantly reserve the right not to fully award this period. You know, it depends on other EOT in conjunction with other EOT. Maybe if we can set the rules first, then people, you know, like you all and your HR or the government or whatever, the organization will have to have the way to find a way to fit into that rule. That can be one solution, meaning that you already said that you must run 50 km/h. So you set that rule first, and then everybody will have to follow the rule, and then you have to start training yourself to run that 50 km/h. And if you cannot run that 50 km/h, then you have to buy yourself a bicycle, or you have to buy yourself a motorbike or something like that, and then get to the target lah. I mean, like I said, it's a chicken egg situation. We can set the rules first, or you can get the manpower first and then set the rules. But it's always that argument that we have lah. In that sense, yeah. But I think we can all of us can agree that it will be beneficial if all the EOT are being applied for. And I don't say that it's the client side that is a problem all the time. A lot of times are the contractors, because they don't provide the right evidences as well. Right? They will just send in EOT, and then from contractor's perspective is I just apply as much as I like, and then it's up to you to assess, and give or not give. And yeah, I mean, I worked for a contractor before, so I know how contractor function. I also know how, Unimas is also a very big client base. I know how client thinks as well. And, I also practice as an engineer, so I know what designers, contractors think as well. So, I mean, it can be a situation that is actually very difficult to find the right answer to. There's no right answer to. Today, I'm not here to tell you that there is a right answer out there to solve all these problems. Contract is the best answer. No such thing. Again, very much, like I said, before you go to the contract, I hope that everybody can use their emotional and IQ and EQ to settle the problem before you go into contract and do it the hard way. See? I think if you go to the contract, it's already very harsh in that sense. So if we can maintain a good relationship with everybody and try to settle the issues in a good way, why not? You see, that would be the best result for everybody. I don't believe in pushing into contract in the face. I mean, if you ask me to manage your project, the contract, I would want to have the knowledge of contract, which I want you all to be aware and to know what rights, what obligations you have. You have to know it very well. But when you execute it with human. Don't just execute like a robot. Okay? It's something very important that I need you all to bear in mind. You must know your rights, but when you apply like a human being. Which means you have many considerations within the decision itself, and it's not only yes or no. I think the best way is, like say, contractor, when they apply, we settle it within certain period of time. When they must apply or they must inform, and then they must apply, and then within like 2 months, the other side also apply, and then we keep it there as it is. All the evidences are there already. All the information are there already. If they need it, then we'll take it out later. If they don't need it, then okay lah, never mind. It's all settled already. That means the project is no delay. Everybody happy. Why not? Even better. But if there is a delay, we try to help to see whether we can actually bring in some of the previously already confirmed EOT and see if we can do the extension. But they must very clearly realize that whatever that is being awarded, which I emphasize many times, because you need to write there in the letter of reply to them. whether you award, not only a simple yes or no, but you have to say that this is not an absolute value yet. It is subjected to other EOT claims that will be made later on in the project. That is very important. You must inform. Okay. The speed of doing it, the procedures of doing it, and then of course finally the people doing it. I mean, if we have AI or robot doing it, then how nice, isn't it? If we can all put this in chat GPT, and then say how much time should I give to this contractor, then isn't that even better, We can't, yeah, isn't that? So it has to still be human assessments, which would involve ground people. It will also involve the HQ people, to do it at the same time. But I don't know how to settle it timely, how to work on it in the timely manner. That one your organization have to decide lah. But one method, like I say, if you set it as a rule first, maybe in most cases it helps lah. You already set the benchmark there, so semua engineer in the section, you will definitely start to get used to it, and then you will practice like that. That one is usually the case, top down lah. But top down, the other question is, who wants to be the bad guy? Who wants to be the top down person, the top person who says that from now on, you all EOT must assess. I don't care how many projects you have in hand. You got EOT, you must assess it within the 30 days. No excuse. Who dare to do that? Director, if do that, then everybody will hate him. Yeah. Not easy lah. That's why I say running the organization is not easy lah. Because for any government organization, all the bosses, they are also engaged under government. For them, they are not really your bosses, isn't it? Why would they want to be a bad guy all the time? But it's like what we're saying about the flooding issues. Many times we've been talking about flooding issues, even in UNIMAS itself. I was very disappointed many times of, putting in proposal on studying of the actual drainage systems in Kuching at the moment and see where is the problem. You see, a lot of people are talking about building bigger drains and making this and that and doing this and that. But nobody wants to sit down and put some time and effort into studying where are the root of the problem. And even if we're willing to do that, there are many people out there who just wants to have very quick solution to everything, you see. If it's not quick, they don't want it, and then they will ban the idea. So even we talk about it again and again, we realize that it becomes a situation that where everybody just sort of sit there and decided, we cannot move forward. It's like everybody freeze in the face of the problem. Now that, we have all this flash flood problem suddenly happening in Kuching over this one weekend, you realize that everybody just freeze, everybody start throwing balls to each other. Instead of somebody sitting down there and say that I want to be the bad guy, I say that from today onwards, let's do it like this. Nobody in DID dare to say that. Nobody in JKR, nobody in government wants to go ahead and do this, you see. I mean, it is sad lah, but I don't want to say that we have to give up hope lah. We still, this is our stake. We still have to work on it. You all in your own position, you can do your part, you see. And I think a little bit of difference will slowly make a lot of difference. Even it sounds a lot like chicken soup. It sounds a lot like, encouragement words, but I think the worst is we all give up and decided to be, nobody is doing it, I don't do it lah. I also kawan kabut, we all kawan kabut together, don't lie, isn't it? You understand what I'm trying to say, guys? Yeah. So these are the kind of elements that I want to put in this sort of topics now to practice with logic and reason now, because we human beings are given a network of neural that actually help us to reason, and actually help us to see logic. We're not animals, you see, so we need to practice that logic. So even if you try to do it, I think you try in your position, you try to do it. Same goes with contractor. You don't want to make things hard for people. Don't apply for EOT at the end of the project when you need EOT. Then you go and apply. Then nobody knows how to access your EOT, and then you go and scream and shout and say that oh, people are not doing the job. They don't know what they're doing. They're so stupid. Kind of thing. I don't like that as well. Because you yourself leave it for so long already. Ask you for proof also, you cannot get already. You know where to get already. And then you want people to access your EOT. How to access? Yeah. All right. Anything else? So I will put up the second part of the lecture on payment on Monday. So this one I will do. The other thing, I want to download Dr. Ambrose recording. Because most of you are attending these physical classes, so I'm not so worried about the recording. I did try to download. Actually, it's a 9 hours recording, so my office computer literally just stopped for a little while. So I haven't finished downloading yet. I don't know where is it now. It's probably in my computer already, but I haven't checked. The last time it says that it needs 7 hours to download. So I think something wrong with my computer in the office. So this one here, about 3-4 hours, I think should be okay. I will download it and put it up online for you all. Then I will post up all the 8 recordings on payment on Monday. All right, so I'll see you guys next week. Same time, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, okay?
Doctor, before you leave, sorry.
Yes.
So by the end of this class, you will post the individual assignment as well, is it? Or for the next class?
This one. After this, I will post, let's say, Monday when I get back to the office.
Okay. All right. Thank
I'll
you,
post the
Doctor.
recording, I'll post the assignment, okay? Mine is an assignment. Dr. Ambrose one is a group project. So I think you finished that one already. I'm still downloading that recording that you guys have last week. Do you guys need it? Like the one on the night, the LU5 to LU7 one. Dr. Ambrose did, I did record the whole thing for him. That one, do you need it? This is a very long recording. I need to download it and I need to put it into YouTube for reduction of the file space and then post it up. So it will take time. Yeah. But the notes for LU5 to LU7, I've already posted everything already today. So Monday, I will post up this recording, my 8 recording for the second class, and also the assignment and the notes. Okay? Thank you guys. Hope you enjoy the class. We definitely can share anything that we know. And yeah, you're all from the industry. I would like to also hear your opinion now. All right, see you guys. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yes? Bye.